welcome to another episode of Occult Chat. I'm Alex Harper, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Cooper and Hope. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hi, everyone.
It's another week, another show. We are here talking about transitions. I've made a few of them, and it looks like we're kind of transitioning into like a dystopian hellscape. So it's an appropriate topic for the time, right? It's timely. Um, I think that's just the lighting. Someone asked Hope, "Did you dye your hair red?"
Yeah,
I
no,
think it's just the
no,
lighting.
it's just the lighting. I'm not sure what's different about the lighting today, but it's coming out red. I do have a bit of a California burnt color to my hair. It does have like a brown red sheen to it, but
Yeah, there's
that
like some like chocolate or chestnut or something like that. Like a
yeah,
deep red.
yeah. I mean, it could just be because I have Mars on the ascendant, so maybe it's that like Martian energy coming through with my hair. I am also a Leo, so long, thick hair.
So yeah, speaking of astrology, actually, so this is gonna look at uh, this from an astrological point of view first. This question about transitioning from my story, right? So that's what we're gonna look at. I've mapped out the transits, and it was funny. Like I'd looked at the transits for some of these events and like before, but I'd never really strung them all together. I knew Jupiter was involved, but I checked every single Jupiter activation, and it was something to do with this whole story of gender and sexuality, um, going relationships with people, sex. Like it's all like I don't know, a lot about sexuality, a lot of key moments in kind of experimenting around with either homosexuality or cross-dressing, right, linked to these Jupiter transits. So
Yeah,
it's interesting because everyone says on like astrology Twitter, it's like, oh, Mercury's the queer, right? Mercury's queer, Mercury's the LGBT, because he's like he's a hermaphrodite, right? Like that's different than being gay. Being a hermaphrodite is different than being gay or trans or whatever. Being a hermaphrodite is being born with the qualities of both sexes. So, I mean, so basically, the others, I mean, they say Saturn is like eunuchs, right? So I
right.
guess, I mean, I always look at, Saturn afflicting stuff, especially Saturn. If Saturn's afflicting Mercury and Venus together, Firmicus Maternus says that makes homosexuals, right? So, yeah. So it's an interesting thing. I don't know, Cooper. Did you have any? I think were talking about Jupiter and gender and stuff. I didn't know if you had any thoughts you wanted to get into before we jumped in, or if that was something you were going to bring up later.
Sure. I mean, kind of just touching on a surface level, I think, particularly when we talk about, and again, this might not fit neatly with the contemporary political language around gender and sexuality. And I think there's 19 things.
My presentation is not going to fit neatly with the contemporary like opinions and like
Narrative.
narrative,
which isn't what I was trying to preempt, but is also true.
Yeah,
But the thing that I am trying to actively preempt or point out is that different cultures and different times have thought very, very, very differently about this. And what's interesting to me is that despite the varied cultures in which astrology has been practiced, right, it does tend to point to the same things over and over again when we're talking about these matters. And what's really interesting is Jupiter tends to have a big role in terms of what maybe we would think of as like old school transitioning, right? So you're going to go full into the other gender, right? So I'm going to
Mm.
go male to female, and it tends to
Yeah,
be
which is what I did.
pronounced, right, transformation. Whereas like mercurials tend to be more non-binary.
Yeah, it's like a David Bowie or like a Morrissey
Mhm,
type, you know. It's
right.
like
Where
you know,
Jupiter tends to be
they're a
really,
little bit effeminate and they're a little bit androgynous, but they don't ever actually like try and appear to be a woman.
yeah, exactly. And then I would talk about Saturn as like, you know, asexuals, eunuchs, things like that. Um, which is interesting, right? That the planets of the sun are particularly involved. And you know, Mercury is not a planet of the sun, but plays his weird little
I mean,
role
it
as
is
well.
the closest planet to the sun, and you know, Mercury gets a lot of its qualities from its eccentric orbit
Mhm.
around the sun and the gravity that the sun pushes on the planet, where it like makes it the most elongated orb in the system. Like it's the least regular spheroid in the solar system because of the gravity of the sun warping it. And so I feel like the sun does have a strong influence on Mercury just because of the proximity of the planets.
Yeah, so I would emphasize that element, which I think people would, if we're doing like pop astro, that might weird people out to think about the sun as being paramount to like sex and sexuality, where we would tend to want to associate that with the moon and like more feminine qualities, where the solar planets are in fact the ones that really dictate that. I have a lot of thoughts about that. Maybe we will get there, maybe we won't. Mostly the gist of it being, I think people downplay how much identity is central to your emotional state and well-being, and but whatever. I think the other element that will be interesting to revisit as we go through this conversation is particularly talking about Jovian entities, right? So that's sort of um, where we can go a little bit beyond the astrology, and I'll throw these in there as we go. But in certainly within the broader Indo-Aryan traditions, there's pretty much, without exception, some kind of, it's usually male, um, deity who either pretends to be female or takes on an actual female physical form. And that is essential to their hero's narrative. That I think is really interesting, and we will come back to a couple times. There are also women who defy their roles. So we can talk about Hera, we could talk about Athena, Hippolyta. There's a lot of these Jovian figures who are like literally rides a Pegasus given to her by Zeus. Um, and they are also typically very transgressive, but their transgressiveness, the sort of Jovian transness, is not against the dynamic. It is changing your position within the dynamic to the other extreme, where Mercury might say, "What dynamic? Let's play with the middle ground and let's see if there's there." And then Saturn says, "Well, actually, all of this is kind of irrelevant at a certain perspective anyway." And I find the dynamic of those three planets around this question to be very important. And so, like, as you're thinking about this yourself and listening to Alex kind of talk through his own journey and reflecting on your, I want you to look at those three planets, right? How do they interact in your chart? What houses are they the lords of? And think what you will find
And
is,
remind us again what the planets are. The three.
so Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn. Right, so
Yes.
these are the queer planets, right? We can broadly put it that way. They're the ones who are going to be dealing with these subjects. So what I would expect, like Jupiter in Cancer, right? That's probably I that would be a fun thing to do, is look at the charts of like people born under Jupiter signs and like their sexualities. My guess is when Jupiter's in detriment, there's a lot more gay kids born, and when Jupiter is in domicile, it's probably a lot fewer.
I mean, I've
There's a
exalted
lot.
Jupiter, as we'll see soon.
Yeah,
So
so it's
who
quite
knows?
interesting. And I've read a few different astrologers. Like there's one guy, a Vedic astrologer, who's kind of made this his speciality, and he posts quite a lot on the internet. It's very interesting to hear what he has to say. So um, keep those in mind. Certainly, L7, Lord of the Seventh House, is going to be important for me. That is Mercury. So hooray, that fits one of those planets and explains why I have the inexplicable and endless frustrating attraction to bisexual men, which, hey, Mercury, aren't you great?
Yeah, the worst.
I'm not saying that, but I'm implying it.
Right.
Yeah, I was really surprised actually to see how well Jupiter played out in these periods of your life that were critical and monumental to your journey with your sexuality. So I'm honestly still not sure what to make of it. One, just because I haven't quite looked at other trans people's charts to kind of understand how Jupiter played a role. But as you tell your story and go through the slides, I'm sure people will be able to make the connection, the Jupiter connection to your story. So I wonder if it, so part of me wonders if it was kind of personal to you in your individuation and your self actualization. But we'll talk more about that as we go through the slides.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that. But that's, yeah, very good to know. It's very good to know. Now, now that we've got all of that preamble out of the way, we do want to lighten things up for a little bit. So we are going to do a brief picture show so you can see what I used to look like, right? So this is me maybe a year ago in the upper left. So this is me back when I was just transitioning. You see, I'm doing the whole cute face. I'm trying. All right, I've got all of this. This is before I gave up in like 2021 or something. Or quit trying, really. Quit trying is hard.
But you look like Chloe Savini.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. A lot of people say I look like Chloe Savini. I mean, I was at least halfway convincing. I mean, I could, get straight men interested in me out at bars, right? So, I got
Yeah.
a
I
bit
mean,
of that.
to use
Especially
Zero Gold's point about the lashes, you guys, Alex has the longest fucking natural lashes I have ever seen in my entire life. And if you put mascara on it, it looks like false lashes that you like glue on. And I imagine you had a lot of fun with that when you transitioned and was playing around with makeup and stuff.
Yeah,
My
people would
lashes are
ask
wasted
me.
on men.
Women would always ask me, are those fake lashes? And I was like, no, they're real, because they wanted to know what lashes they were so they could buy them.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, these are my lashes. And they were like, nah, right? And they'd even be like, one of them was even like, oh, but you're trans. I was like, yeah, well, men have longer eyelashes technically, so on average. So yeah, that's. Oh, I also had another incident, another funny kind of like transgender story. Was I was getting like laser hair removal done on my legs, and I went there and I had a towel on the whole time, and she's like lasering my legs and stuff. And then when she like flops up in the towel and she sees my dick, she like gasps, right? And it's like, what? And it's like, oh, what, you're trans? And then I was like, I had no idea. And then starts, and she's like, is that your real hair?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
As if men couldn't grow out their hair.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, it's my real hair. Yeah. Cooper's sighing. All right, here. Yeah. See, you get the idea. All right. And now here is the gayest picture slash of me that I have like in current time, just
You look super hot
comparison
in this picture. What are you talking about? You look like a young Morrissey.
No, I must not. Surely. Well, all right. Now, so basically, where are we going to start this story, right? I mean, technically, my life story starts when I'm born, right? But, things kind of heat up quickly for me, right? So, here we go. Let's talk about how I'm going to track these Jupiter cycles. So the simplest way to track Jupiter cycle is to track Jupiter's transits to itself, right? So if you have Jupiter in Cancer like I do, then Jupiter's going to go into Leo, and then it's going to go into Virgo, and it's going to sextile your natal Jupiter, and then it's going to go into Libra, and it's going to square it, etc. There's other more complicated Jupiter cycles you can do. You can look at Jupiter relative to the moon, to the ascendant, to the sun, right? There's a lot of different things you want to consider. But when I was going through, I decided, all right, if Jupiter is going to be related to this, then I'll just go through and I'll check the dates of all these hard aspects that Jupiter makes to my natal Jupiter, and I'll see what I get, right? And so this was kind of, now I ended up including some other dates that were significant that did not come up when I did this method, but those dates also have significant Jupiter activations in them. So, right, it's just not the squares and the oppositions. So you can do this with your own chart, right? So you can go and we'll demonstrate it, right? But yeah, basically, the big scoop on the show, one of the big scoops in the show, is one of the, I guess, least surprising lore drops ever. If you follow me, probably, I mean, you have an idea I'm not necessarily normal, and yeah, I was abused as a child, and this is like something that started here when Jupiter made its first aspect, its first opposition to my natal Jupiter. And it's, I mean, the first hard aspect was when Jupiter was in Libra, but I was 3 years old and I don't remember anything that happened then. So
Right.
I think I may have gotten a head injury then, but I'm not sure. Don't know. May have like banged my head open and had to get stitches. Which would be interesting if that did line up, but I don't know for sure. But yeah, we see also here in my chart, there's this like really nasty triple conjunction of Mars, Mercury, Saturn, and it's all underneath the sun's rays. So like the sun is like obscuring this meeting. So one of the things in astrology is that when a conjunction takes place under the beams of the sun, right? So within 15 degrees of the sun, it is said to be like a secret meeting, right? Like a meeting that happens in secret, and you don't know the effects of it until later, and it's concealed at the time, right? And so a lot of times, if Venus and Mercury conjunct under the sun's beams, this can be like secret agreements being signed, secret negotiations happening,
Secret alliances.
Like yeah, here, it's all conjunct my natal Mars placement. And so, which is the ruler of my ascendant. And it's also ruled by Jupiter. It's in Pisces. So the ruler of the Mars is Jupiter. So Jupiter's involved there too. There's just like so many things going on here. Neptune square Venus, Pluto opposite Sun, the moon being in like a bad Terrabolum. It's actually funny. There's like a lot of days on here with Taurus moons.
Interesting.
Yeah. So,
and the other interesting thing about this is that like, there's also this like really benefic conjunction happening in your 7th house with Moon and Venus, in Taurus, and they're both like, their planetary dignity is supposed to be really strong, right? Moon is exalted in Taurus, Venus is dignified in Taurus. Yet I think this is a really good example of how astrology just isn't straightforward. And even if some benefic thing is happening in your chart, that doesn't necessarily, you have to look at kind of all the conditions, because as you mentioned earlier, there's this vicious Mars, Mercury, Saturn combust conjunction on your chart ruler.
Yes.
So, yes. But then the same thing could be said about like there's like a vicious or malefic transit happening, but also a really benefic one. And the benefic one could override the bad one too, right? So it's just like a level of nuance here.
And if you were actually doing this as a real astrologer, you would not just look at transits, you'd look at all kinds of other timing techniques. We're just looking at the transits because it's simple and we can teach you how to do this for yourself and go and find significant moments in your life and see how they track. So now, the thing is, my Jupiter actually is, so according to Vedic principles, is afflicted. Well, so it's afflicted anyway, this sign opposition to Saturn. But honestly, I don't think that that's the real affliction to my Jupiter. The real affliction to my Jupiter is the fact that it's hemmed by the Sun and Ketu, the South Node. So the planet in the sign after it is Ketu, which is a malefic, and the planet in the sign before it is the Sun, which is also considered in Vedic a weak malefic planet. And so technically this is a malefic hemming of Jupiter. And so Jupiter is going to it's going to behave in perhaps an afflicted way, right? The way afflicted Jupiters behave, right? It's flamboyant, it's outlandish, right?
Yeah.
It's over the top.
U0 Gold also brings up a good point that it's your Jupiter is conjunct Chiron too, which is traditionally known to be a asteroid associated with trauma and wounds and whatnot.
Yeah, so if we go forward, the next time Jupiter is around here, around the middle of a sign, this is another incident of childhood abuse that I went through. And this one is like even crazier, the transits here. Like, so it's the Mars retrograde conjunct my ascendant, opposite Saturn conjunct my descendant. And yeah, I mean, what more? Like, that's like, that's like a meat grinder type of configuration. Yeah, Cooper, you're nodding along.
It's pretty brutal.
Yeah. So this one didn't break my mind as badly as the other one, though. I still remember this one for the most part and always have, but the other one, the memories got fragmented because my mind kind of split and I like left my body during the incident. And this is something that this is why, right? All these, like the Jeffrey Epstein types, right? So supposedly abuse children is because when you inflict trauma, you basically force the astral body to leave the physical body, right? By force, right? And it ejects it out in this like great explosion of power, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that's said is that one of the best ways to gain an astral body and be able to survive in the astral after you die is to die a horrific, violent death, right? And it's this horrific, violent death that the astral body then comes out of your physical body, right, during it. And when that eruption happens, the astral body can gain strength, right? So when people have traumatic things where they disassociate and they leave their body and they look like they're looking down on themselves and all of that, if you've ever been through trauma and all of that, what that is your astral body leaving your physical body. We'll get to this later in the presentation in the second half, but basically that's going to be important later, this idea of the astral body and trauma and this kind of thing. So if we go forward another day, I didn't have a specific day in this year that like was significant. So I looked on my birthday because this is the year I hit puberty, and Jupiter's returned in my solar return chart for the year I hit puberty. And it was also the year that my kind of awareness of like, well, I mean, I guess I was like I was aware of it. I was aware of sex more than other kids, when I was younger than this. But this was kind of like feeling sexual attraction really come on, because there was like, I may have had crushes or something like this, but it's like once those hormones hit, then you start feeling sexual attraction. And I started feeling it for men and women, right? And I was, confused by that because previously, I'd had like a little girlfriend or whatever. We like held hands on the schoolyard, whatever. You know what I mean? I always had like crushes on girls, but when I was in puberty, uh, I was like all of a sudden a lot more interested in men and doing gay stuff, right? So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, Eric, that's actually the first thing I noticed too. So Eric points out here that Venus and Mars in the same sign as Jupiter with Jupiter return. And I feel like whenever Mars is involved with Venus, it always is associated with like sex.
yeah,
Like it's not just romance, it's like passion. And your Mars is at 0 degrees. It's Sandhi anoretic. So it definitely seems to point to the fact that Mars is not only contributing to this like physical sexual development, but also that Mars kind of is taking the reins in a lot of ways. Because whenever a planet is at the beginning of the sign or at the end of the sign, not only is it unstable, it's also really loud in a chart.
yeah. Well, the thing is, Mars does, according to traditional astrology, rule the male generative organ, specifically like the hormone producing part of the male reproductive system. And so, um, Mars entering the sign, I mean, and Venus does it the same thing for women, right? So, Venus rules the female reproductive hormones and all of that. Um, okay, people are making a list of questions about astrology techniques we can address later. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I've been ignoring the chat. Sorry, guys.
No,
So
it's okay. I'm
this one
collecting
was
them.
interesting. Going on, we see the next one is. Oh yeah. No, this is the one before that. Okay, is there a slide missing? Why did I go straight from? Did I miss 2005? I must have. Oh wait, I thought I did pull that one up. I must not have gotten that one. So basically, the slide that's missing here is when I actually lost my virginity. I need to pull up that chart because that was like when I was 14, and it was Mars on my ascendant. Whatever. I'm just gonna power through it. I didn't realize that slide was missing. Here we go. Here's another Jupiter activation, right? So this Jupiter in Capricorn transit was pretty terrible for me overall. I got a nice gift at the end, which is what this chart is, which is when I met a girl who was an astrologer and started dating her. But
And you're in high
previously,
school, right?
I was in high school at this time, yeah. Previously, during this whole retrograde Jupiter did in Capricorn across my Saturn, I had a bunch of rumors spread that I was gay by an ex of mine, and it's this bizarre bisexual love triangle that I'm not going to go into on stream, but basically it blew up, and everyone knew, and yeah, but this girl who was in school suspension. We met in school suspension, right? So they
That
had to make
is
me sit there all
very
day.
bisexual drama.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. Now another thing that's interesting is that this day is actually the day I got my first astrology reading ever, right? And
Wow.
she cast my chart, right? And it was Mercury Cazimi in Libra retrograde, right? Now at the time, I had a different birth time that my mother had given me, right? That I used for like 10 years or more than that. I used it for so long. I used it since I don't even know how long. I only found out in 2022 my real birth time. And I'd been doing astrology with this other birth time for like a long time. So it was crazy when I found out. And I also found out under a Mercury Cazimi in Libra, although this time it was direct. And so it's like my first ever astrology reading, And then when I find out my correct birth time, both happen under Mercury, Cazimi, and Libra. It's like in my 12th house, which is hidden things, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know, that's crazy.
Good
Yeah.
on
I,
you.
I think it's also really cool that you get your first exposure to astrology and get your first reading during a Jupiter transit. So there is this multi-layered quality
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the way that Jupiter is manifesting in your life.
Yeah, the spirituality is wrapped up in here as well, right? And this whole kind of transgender business kind of brings me to a lot of the spiritual searching. Um, so yeah, it's this one was fun. This was a good day. I had a lot of fun this day. Now then 3 years later, we've got Jupiter exactly square. And this is when, this one was the craziest one because it was the tightest with the actual timing. It's the day Jupiter perfects the aspect to my natal Jupiter. And it's also the day I moved in with my girlfriend. And and it was also her birthday. So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, before this, it was interesting. Another thing before this is like when Jupiter was retrograde before this, there was the gay shit that I was doing, right? I was like, going with men and cross-dressing, things like that. That's like I'm actually getting the nerve to go out in public, cross-dressing at this point, right? So, and this is back in 2011, right? So this was like before that was like normal, right? This is this is a long time before that was normal.
Mhm.
And I was really at the beginning, I was really obvious about it. I remember I had this like ridiculous like pink leather jacket skirt combination that was just like screamed stag, that I was like, I did
Giving
all of
Barbie.
it. Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was just for, I mean, we all know why people do that kind of stuff. I'm not going to say anymore. Basically, here's Jupiter again messing with me. Another thing that I noticed about this chart that was interesting is that it's like Mars is roughly returning and Uranus. There's like a Uranus Cazimi close to my Mars. I don't know. It's another Mars activation. And then Mars and Jupiter seem to be active in tandem a lot for me. Okay, so this is where we finally get to the transgender story. So this is on, but like all of this other stuff kind of led me to it, right? All these other activations, you're slowly getting a story, right? Now we have Jupiter in Cancer for my second Jupiter return. This is when I went to a transgender support group. Now, this is ultimately the thing that led me to decide to transition, right? And because everyone asks me this question. So if you've ever asked me this question, here's your answer. All right. So I went to this support group, and everyone there, except for like one person, was these like men in their 50s, right? These old queens that were, balding, or they've got like beer guts, and they're dressed like, I don't know, they're dressed like an underage prostitute. It's like it's bad, right? It's really, really bad, right? And they're telling me these stories about when they were younger and they were my age and stuff, and I'm listening to all of this. And then I'm, asking them questions about their life, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm at 50. The wife divorced me. She found out about this. Our kids hate me. Blah blah blah." And I'm sitting there listening to all this, and I'm thinking, like, Jesus Christ, yeah, this is bad. If this is my fate, this is not good, right? Something's got to be done. I can't end up like these guys, right? Like what? And so, you know, when faced with this, and I think, all right, well, if this is not going to go away, and if I ignore it and push it down and just kind of like let it out every here and there, which is what I've been doing so far, then I'm going to end up like these people. And so I was like, all right, no, thank you. I don't want to do that. I will just take my chances. I'll just transition now where at least I have a chance of being hot or at least halfway convincing. Right. And I'm still young. Right. Why not just do this now? And so that's what I did. And so this is when I first started taking steps to make physical modifications to my body. I started getting laser hair removal done on my face this year, and when I was 24. And so this is when really the transition in a physical medical way began, because I didn't start the hormones until a couple of years later, but it was the lasering off of all of my facial hair, which still hasn't grown back, really. It's like very faint. I don't really have hardly any of it. Now we see here the transits. It's like, I mean, Pluto is conjunct Neptune, which I find interesting. Mars is stationed retrograde opposite natal Venus.
Interesting.
Yeah, this Neptune is square the sun. And we'll see that come in more when I look at the hormones, right? So this is the first one that breaks the pattern. Here's when I started the hormones. Now we see Jupiter here is just stationed retrograde and it's opposite Mars. Here, let me use the highlighter. That's just the marker. Damn it.
Yeah, what I found really interesting about your story was that it was just so like real. You know, it was like so it was it just didn't have that like, how do I put it? It just didn't have like that emotional like undertone that I'm so used to seeing, you know, and I think we're really used to seeing online about like a lot of people when they say they transition, it's because they have always felt like a woman their entire life and they were just they're becoming who they knew or they know who they are like truly deep inside, right?
Yeah.
And then like your story was like, I don't want to be an ugly trans person when I'm older. I'd rather be hot. So it's just like so like Aries Venus to me. It's just like so blunt about it, you know? I just always found that story like really charming.
Yeah, I mean, also, I mean, the reason why a lot of transgender people say that narrative is because like that's the narrative that gets you through the hurdles that are needed to get the hormones and get all of that prescribed, right? Like there's this story. Now it's not like that anymore, but back when I was doing it, it was still kind of like that, right? And you had to say certain things if you wanted to let them give you the hormones and write the letters for your surgeries and all of this. And the thing is, for me, I didn't really know, right? Like I was confused about it. Like I was like, all right, well, I feel compelled to like I like wearing women's clothing. You know, to me, I had like looked. I knew what transgender was. I'd looked it up, obviously, but I enough to go to the meeting. But the thing is that you know, it's very easy to then, you know, go back and like look for things in your past, right? And you know, I was very flamboyant kid. I was like, you know, limp wristed. I was like bullied a lot in school as a result of it. I was always called gay, right? Like I was always the kid that's like bullied for being gay because I was just like, you know, I don't know. I guess I just could just smell it, right? Yeah. So here, moving on, you guys are getting the idea with this. It's every time Jupiter does something, this shit happens. Right. So, whoops. I'm moving on. All right. Oh, this is another one I thought cool chart just to show. So here, this is when I got my legal name and gender change, and we see a Mercury Cazimi right on my ascendant. And then we have Jupiter is here square, natal Jupiter,
Mm-hmm.
applying to it. Saturn and Venus are opposite my sun. It's like a lot of activations for me. Saturn or Mars on my Saturn down here. So kind of an interesting one. So Jupiter is present when I start making the physical alterations to my body. It's conjunct my natal Jupiter. Then when it's legally recognized that I've transitioned, Jupiter's square. And then if we go forward, okay, this is when I first ran into problems with the hormones, right? So it's not all fun and games when you take artificial hormones, right? This is the thing with the transgenderism and why it's different than just being gay, because it's like a whole suite of like medical appointments. Like I used to go to so many medical appointments. I had to get my blood drawn every 3 months. I had to get brain scans because there was
Wow.
some kind of thing going on with my pituitary that was weird. And basically, what happens is after I've been on the hormones for a while, about almost 2 years at this point, I began to show the first symptoms of what was later diagnosed as Addison's disease. Right. So this is a adrenal insufficiency. This is where you basically your body cannot make enough cortisol. Right. And I had to take hydrocortisone, which would then be metabolized by my body into cortisol. And if I did not take this medication, then I would pass out. And if someone didn't give it to me when I was sleeping, I would die. So
Alex, what is hydrocortisone?
it's a drug. It's like a corticosteroid hormone that is used for various purposes. But one of the ways it's used at higher doses is to supplement the endocrine system when it cannot make cortisol, because this hydrocortisone drug is like a precursor to the cortisol. Right? So it
Interesting.
can be, yeah.
So was the issue that your body wasn't producing enough cortisol in your body because of the
It wasn't
transition?
producing the precursor that the body makes to cortisol, which I can't remember the name of specifically, but it was some precursor to cortisol that
Yeah.
the body makes that I wasn't making. And so as a result, I had no cortisol. And I had to get like an artificial precursor basically so that my metabolism could work. Right.
Interesting.
Now, when I'm asked by people about yeah, a lot of the trans people have medical problems. I mean, I could tell you so many horror stories of trans people I know that have had really bad medical issues. But, for me, what happened is with this Addison's disease, what I tell people, so when people talk to me, and ask me why I detransitioned, and it's like someone that's like in my life, but I don't really like want to give them the real answer, right? Because the real answer is too esoteric. I tell them that it's because of this Addison's disease, right? And that I stopped taking the hormones because, the only other thing was take these artificial hormones, and I wanted to see my system come back online. Now, what really happened with that is that I did magic to make my body start producing this hormone again. And
Of course you did.
yeah. So once I found out that was the problem, it took a while though, because my body was weakened, which we're going to get to. It took me about a year of repeated workings to get it to kick back on, but it eventually did. So yeah, this was not good. And we have Jupiter and Venus conjunct on my ascendant. You'd think this would be good, right?
Right.
But it wasn't.
Astrology just isn't just not as straightforward.
No, it's not. So
The more I learn astrology, the more I'm like, I don't know shit.
So jumping forward to the next key date here. So this was during the Jupiter opposition, right? Now, when I transitioned, I ended up getting married, right? Now, the guy I was with, he started cheating on me actually on this specific day. This is why I chose this day, because Jupiter is within orb of being opposite. It's going to come back in station, and there was like more problems that happened then, but basically this whole retrograde was the really sucky part for this. He starts cheating on me. I didn't find out until much later. But I also, this is when I'm at like the throes, like I'm dealing with this Addison's disease, right? Because although the symptoms showed up here, I kind of just kept trucking for about a year, right? And it wasn't until 2018, the end of 2018, that I ended up getting medicine on it. And so this whole retrograde in the early part of 2020 during the pandemic and stuff, I was like just coming off of the hydrocortisone, and my system was making hormones, but not enough. And I was like trying not to take the artificial stuff because then my body would be dependent on it, wouldn't work as hard. And so it was like this whole time period was like a real struggle. And I also had several scandals and like falling outs and things like this. I had several friendships detonate during the pandemic. Kind of long-standing, friends who, I don't know, they didn't take too kindly to my conspiratorial views on what was happening, and they called, I alienated a lot of people during this time, basically. I also managed to make a prosecutor quit his job, and so still proud of
You
that.
were happy about that.
Yeah. I was so verbally abusive to this guy. It's incredible.
Alex is a criminal defense lawyer, just to put that into context.
Yeah.
So, yeah, their arch nemesis usually comes down to being prosecutors.
So this is also when I'm starting to get doubts about this whole transgender thing, right? Like I'm starting to, like, I don't want to detransition at this point, but it's made my life so much more difficult. Not in a social sense, it has too, but that wasn't why. It was like the physical ailment, and it was like during this period, especially towards the end of 2020, where my body is like limping along and it's recovering, but it's like I feel like I have 25% operating capacity, right? Like I feel exhausted like all the time, right? So if we keep going, we're almost done. This is when I actually stopped taking the hormones. And we see here it's another retrograde Jupiter. It's in Aries, which is square by sign. It's, close to my Mars.
The repetition of these oppositions and squares playing such a huge role in your sexuality, your hormonal journey is just like awesome.
So, this, I basically got I was getting messages that these hormones were bad for me. I needed to stop them. I was having basically dreams where these kind of people were telling me this, and I remember I got a tarot deck and asked the cards like what my relationship to these hormones was, and I pulled the Devil card, and I didn't like that, so I went and pulled out a different tarot deck, and I also pulled the Devil in that one. And then I went on to an online tarot card generator, and it was the Devil. And so it's like, all right, maybe maybe these hormones aren't so good for me. And
maybe they're not so good for me.
Yeah. And so I finally, because I'm stubborn, right? I finally gave up the ghost here. Right? And I was like, all right, I will stop these hormones. Now, one thing that's interesting to note here that's going to be important later in the next slide is that we have Pluto, or right, actually, Pluto here stationing conjunct or square my Venus to the degree. This is for the public detransition chart. Why is it going back like that? All right. So basically, the quitting hormones and public detransition both have Pluto stationing square my Venus. And both of them were around, Jupiter here is not doing, this is anomalous, right? Like, so the Jupiter here is just retrograde in Gemini in my 8th. It's going to station direct on my sun later, but I don't know. Also, Neptune on my Mars. Neptune is also associated with like hormones, things like that. One thing that's interesting about this chart, because this is the chart for the moment I posted and announced that I was detransitioning. The Venus in this chart is at the same exact spot that the Saturn was when I went to the transgender support group. Very weird, interesting coincidence there. Now, this was the last thing that was connected to this. And this was basically when, I left a lot of, this is when I started being a lot more, I guess, non-binary, you could say, in my presentation, right? I stopped being as feminine. I stopped wearing makeup, really. I still wore women's clothes and I stopped talking as feminine. I was basically like, soft detransitioning at this point. And this is when most people from here would know me, because this is about the time I joined Twitter with as a public with my face and everything. So I don't know, most of you guys would have known me in that era. If you were following me when I was trans, it would have been this era. So I thought I'm sorry, this took a little bit longer than I wanted to. It was about an hour. I thought we would get it over with. But now, to wrap it all up, this show where I'm doing this presentation is happening when Jupiter is stationing direct conjunct my natal Jupiter. So yeah, pretty funny. So you can do this with your chart. Just find your natal Jupiter and then go and look at when it goes in the signs that are in hard aspect. Now, let's get to the real reason why we're here. Now, all of that information, aside from the astrology stuff, was necessary for this, because we're going to talk about what I mentioned in the beginning, right? Remember when I mentioned being abused when I was a child, and it was pretty bad. It was pretty full on, right? When your mind splits, right, and people have those traumatic dissociative episodes, there's astral body, which is represented in this diagram here, can kind of split off from the other two, right? So everyone has a threefold body, right? Now, this is according to Rudolf Steiner. Every person has a physical body. We're all familiar with that. They have an etheric body, and they have an astral body, right? Now, the thing is that the ether body is basically like this living spirit, right? He says life spirit, right, on the other side of the diagram for the etheric body. And it's this living spirit that's responsible for kind of keeping the physical body and the astral body together, and also maintaining the coherence of each of them, right? And so making sure that the physical body and the astral body are aligned together and within themselves, right? It kind of is like, if you want to think about it as an analog in the human body, the ether body would be like the fascia or like the skin or something like that like holds a bunch of other shit in and together, right? You can think of it like that if you want. Now, the ether body has the nature of the sun, and the astral body has the nature of the moon. right? The astral body is where your mind comes from, right? This is where all the thinking happens. The thinking does not happen in the physical body, in the brain, does not even happen in the brain, right? The brain is merely a receiver for impulses from the astral body, right?
Right.
Yeah. So this is,
But
go ahead. Hope.
sorry, I was just gonna add, I've been listening. So if you guys don't know, there are audiobook readings of Rudolf Steiner's books on YouTube, and they are amazing. They're done really, really well. And I've been going to sleep listening to the outlines of an outline of the esoteric science. I might be butchering that title, but in it, he talks about how the astral body, like, so when you're awake, it's the ether body that is basically has the primary mode of function. And when you're sleeping, it's the astral body. So, and when you wake up because the astral body, I think,
It's because the
it's like
astral
a
body comes
coherence.
back. Yeah.
Right. The astral
So
body has to come back in order for you to wake up. And in order for you to fall asleep, the astral body has to leave.
yes. Yes. So the astral body, every night when you go to sleep, the astral body leaves the body and you have dreams, right? These are the experiences of the astral body.
And I think it's really interesting that the same body that is responsible for your dreams is also responsible for your intelligence. So I feel like that really speaks to what the nature of intelligence and dreams are like.
Yeah. It's also, the source of like intuition, things like that. Creative manifestation is the astral body. Seeing, divining, anything that is involving sensing spirits, stuff like that. That's going to be astral body, right? And then the ether body, is the will, right? So this is like your creative. The will comes from the ether body. The ether body is not the will, but the will is kind of generated, or if your ether body is damaged, it's also bad for the will, right? Which is basically what happened to me, right? Which is what we're getting to. Hope.
And what is the will? Again, I know Cooper has talked about this a lot, but I don't actually quite understand what it is.
So this is like the ability to bring things into existence, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So this says astral body is responsible for the creative manifestation. It's not. That should be under ether body. That's an error. But it's the source of it. You can't create without the ether body, but you can't get the. It's like the astral body has to animate the ether body in order to do it. So
well, maybe the inspiration comes from the astral body, and then the ether body is the one who manifests it.
yes, that's basically what you'd think. Now, this is a tweet thread where this person, shout out to a Chimera, talks about how men and women are different because men have an ether dominant makeup and women have an astral dominant makeup, right? And they're talking about how women are more sensitive to the movements of the moon, whereas men are more sensitive to the movements of the sun. And there is a sunspot cycle that has been linked to wars and violence and outbreak of that kind of stuff. And so, the destructive parts of men do seem to be activated by the sun. I thought this was a cool thread to highlight here about this subject. They talk about all of this. Now, go follow them if you don't at Solar Chimera. Now, so basically what happened to me when I got the Addison's disease, right? So basically the weakening of the endocrine system, because the endocrine system is actually what animates the ether body, and it is the physical counterpart of the ether body, right? So the endocrine, like, it's the physical manifestation of the ether body is in the endocrine system, and the endocrine glands represent basically a link or a doorway with the ether realm, right? Which is
And
yeah.
sorry, what is the endocrine system?
So it's like hormone producing glands.
Okay.
Yeah, all hormone producing organs.
Okay. Got it.
Um,
So the ether body is the one that's associated with the hormone
with the
producing.
endocrine system, yeah. And
Okay.
so when there's hormonal problems, then the ether body is weakened, and then there's like this loss of coherence or resonance that happens. Because remember how I said the ether body was holding the physical body and the astral body together, right? So when there's a weakening to the ether body, these two, the astral body starts to become less and less linked, right? And it can separate and leave much easier, right? Now this is useful for things like astral projecting. It becomes a lot easier to astral project.
Mm-hmm.
It's we'll get to the effects it has mainly, but uh, I also started having all these crazy dreams where it was like other timelines or something where I was completely different people. Like I would be doing all of this stuff from first person perspective in the dream, all this crazy shit. And then I would look in the mirror and it would be some woman with like black hair, brown eyes that I've never met or seen before, but I'm her.
Maybe
Or
it was me.
no, it was a white woman. But
Oh.
that dream was crazy, actually. I won't get into that, but there's other dreams where I've been other random people, and I was like starting to get a bunch of dreams like that. I was also, able to do things in the astral that I wasn't before, and kind of learn some magic in the astral. But the problem is that my ether body, back in my physical body, is weakened. It's bad for the will. It damages the will. So basically, again, this is another. I should have really have proofread this. The manifesting, it should go by the will, not the astral body. I don't know why that is still a mistake. So basically, I got it right on this slide. All right, so basically what it seems to do for me. Now, this is not going to necessarily happen to you, but if you're asking what happened to me, right?
Wait, what's HRT? Sorry.
The hormone replacement therapy, right?
Oh,
So this
okay.
is
So
what
hormone replacement
transgender
therapy.
people take to transition when they start taking estrogen, stuff like that. So, the question here is like, could hormone replacement therapy help with any kind of magic, right? And what I said was that what it helped me with was astral projecting, seeing different divination, intuition, and then like simple manifestations instantly, like trying it like basically it wasn't real manifestation because I wasn't actually creating anything. But what I was able to do is if something was already existent, I could call it into me easily, right? So if there was like someone out there that would lend me support, even if I didn't know them, if I asked, they would come, right? Because my astral body could see the resources clear. I could do things like glamour magic and stuff like that, although that eventually went when my hormones got bad enough. I didn't even have the will to do glamour magic. Now this is the problems, right? So it's going to, when it hurts the ether body, these are the things that it hurts. So it hurts your ability to do complex manifestations like any kind of sorcery, any kind of enchantment, anything that's involved in like overriding reality to be with something else, where it's like an actual manifestation. An actual
Interesting.
manifestation, not just a rearranging of the terms. Now, it's also going to cause problems with magic defenses and protection and invocation. The list goes on. It causes way more problems than it helps, right? Like the ether body is actually like more useful for magic than the astral body a lot of times. I mean, you need the astral body for information and to have like the idea of what to pursue in the first place. But
The
you need the
inspiration.
ether in order to carry it out, right? And this is what happened with me is that I became so bogged down and my will and drive and discernment was so poor that I didn't even I had magic I could do, but I didn't even have any good ideas of what to do it on. The only thing I was trying to manifest was to fix my broken relationship. So birth control. So with that, so it's a matter of, it's not going to be the estrogen causing this directly. It's going to be if the estrogen causes some other kind of follow-on problem, right? So this slide is disingenuous. You shouldn't think that it's going to do this. I have a warning slide on the next slide, but I thought estrogen giving you magic powers was funny. Basically, this is only going to happen if it causes a problem with your endocrine system, right? Which it does fairly frequently, although not the majority of the time. I received an omen that scared me so bad I stopped taking the pill and never resumed. I mean, birth control is terrible, and it was just like put on the list of like cancer-causing medications, I think. Right?
Oh, wow.
Or something like that. It was like certified as like a lot of birth control has like carcinogenic or something like that. It's like
Jesus Christ.
which was speculated for a long time, and there's been specific birth control medications that have been sued for being carcinogenic, but and recalled. I think Yaz was a high-profile one. That was a big lawsuit. I knew a lawyer involved in that lawsuit. That was insane. Yeah.
I do find it interesting that the hormone replacement therapy helped you with astral projecting and seeing and your intuition and stuff, because this is just like my own personal anecdote, but I can never have conversations about dreams with like men. The only person I can have it with is you, but otherwise when I try to talk about it with like my guy friends or my coworkers and stuff, like all of them are like, I don't remember my dreams. You dream? I don't think I dream. And I was like, no, you dream. You just don't remember them. But I can have the most like interesting and deep conversations about dreams with like my female friends, like my sister, my best friend. Even like my like esthetician, we were talking about our dreams for like the entire time. So I think it's really interesting that it was helped. It also makes me think that there must be like a feminine versus masculine type of expression when it comes to magic and all this spiritual stuff.
Well, also, I mean, yeah, I mean, it does. The estrogen does make you more intuitive, right? I noticed that effect before I had any of the negative side effects. The intuition upgrades and the kind of a more emotional type of consciousness or perspective that definitely occurred with the estrogen. I mean, I think there's profound psychological differences in the like I was way more unstable with my mood swings and stuff when I was on the estrogen. It was like crazy. So, you know. Cooper, do you have any thoughts on any of this? You've been kind of quiet here. Expecting you to
Yeah, I mean, kind of just letting you tell the story. In terms of the gendering elements, I mean, there's a lot that you can yap about there. The Wheel of Time series is a good one to look at if you want like a media entertainment bit here. Gist of it being the magic system there is explicitly gendered, and it is very transparently drawn on. So we're going to get to Steiner. We're not there yet. He is drawing from the Theosophists, and they are drawing, let's call it generously, an interpretation of the Indian practices at the time. And so it's really, 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 really important to remember that.
Well, that's more Blavatsky.
Right. But that's where I'm getting is like, so he's drawing from someone who also doesn't really know what she's talking about, but they're also right. And that's like, we haven't really talked a lot about Blavatsky, but that's my hot take on her. It's like, she is right by accident, and gets a lot of things wrong in that process. And so what is really interesting is they do stumble on this the gendering element here, and it is quite important. It is fairly profound and present throughout most magical traditions. Um, Back to our fantasy version of this that might be helpful to some folks. Um, they talk about like it's the one power, right? Magic is the one power, right? You can talk about it the same way. It is ultimately, in truth, a singular unified force. There is no such truth to the universe as male and female, but in the manifestation of it, men and women experience it differently. So for women, it's an overwhelming power that courses through them, right? They have to channel it into their bodies. They pull it in. It's intensely pleasurable, but they lose their sense of identity. And this goes back to the idea of the astral body, right? So that's what he is talking about is women have that innate power to tap into the greater flow and lose their ego in it. The flip side being males in this world, when they're using Sadine, is the masculine version of magic. They have to maintain absolute forceful will and control over the one power at all times, or they will be devoured by it. And so when we look at magic broad strokes, that is what we're talking about, right? So men as magical practitioners are much better at channeling will. Ultimately, if you want to talk about changing shit, men are way better at magic. That's a hot take for the girl power witches out there, and I'm happy to argue with you. But yeah, women are not innately better at magic. What women are very good at is channeling energy, which is very important.
True. Yeah.
And that's typically why
the sword versus the chalice, right?
Right. And so when you're organizing, when you look at like traditional magical orders, you'll typically have a lot of women and one male, or maybe a couple, because what you really need the male to do is manage the wand, right? Like my job is to take all of the energy that you're channeling, draw it forward, and manifest it into a singular thing. So it's why men typically do better in the priest role, where then you've got oracles and divinatory roles typically will align themselves to women. Big emphasis on typically. One thing that you would want to look at is like if Jupiter's in a funny place, or if Jupiter is in relationship to the sun, you would probably expect folks to be different. And then we've also got this important element, which is there's also a middle ground, right? There are other options here. So there are people who are super duper intensely non-binary. There's a lot of interesting conversations. I know a lot of magicians who have chosen to be castrated to lose their testicles, and your penises are still intact and whatever. The Eleusinian mysteries all underwent neutering, or some
Really?
Yeah, it's quite a big part of it.
I didn't know that.
So it's really important when we talk about gender in magic. We should probably think about the 5 genders. Which is male, female, non-binary is probably the word we would use now. You would use agender, and then children. Children have their own gendered construct.
Sorry, what was the 4th one?
He said
agender,
I think, which is
to be absent, to be or to asexual, agender, to not engage with that, versus the non-binary, where you are unrestricted in your interpretation of that, or are highly mobile within that identity. All of them are valuable and have their place in magic, right? So that's one thing that I get frustrated with, is to say broadly any one gender is better at magic, but not really. Are they better at certain aspects? Absolutely. And I think that is...
well, it kind of goes back to, these kind of things where, this is like what women are better at, and this is like what men are better at, right? So like when I'm saying simple manifestations, what it really is it's like couldn't think of the good word for it, but it's like, I don't know how other people do it, but when I do it, it's like a drawing in. It's like this, you like look around and survey what's there, and then you pull it in. And so it's like, if there's anyone out there that would help you, or any energy out there that you can exploit, then you can pull it in and then use it, and it will come to you. And this is why, I don't know, it's like women have it's like it's always someone stopping to help them, right, when they're in trouble, right? Or something like that. I guess I don't know. That's probably a sexist example. I mean, there could be other things. I mean, I used it for glamour magic, right? I just kind of like sucked in some like, you know, ambient energy left lying around and use it for my own glamour magic. Now, even that became difficult to do after a while with my endocrine system the way it was and my ether body so weak. But basically, yeah, this is what this can be divided really into like, you know, moon, sun, basically moon on the top, sun on the bottom, astral body, ether body.
Olive says they're gonna say you're a sexist fascist now.
Oh
No,
yeah, well, you know, they say that anyway, so
it's an old story, I'm afraid.
Also, Uzero Gold asks a clarification question. Could you clarify the difference between agender versus non-binary, Cooper or Alex?
Sure. Well, which one? I could take a stab
Well, he
since I
was
threw
the
it out there.
one that brought it up.
Yeah, and I'm
So,
happy to be incorrect, right? Like these are the fun of queer terminology is it's often interpreted. But I would draw the line at non-binary people are participating in gender and engaging in gendered concepts, but are situating themselves in the middle, right? Where an agendered person typically is rejecting the concept of gender entirely. So, like, I would go with like Hildegard of Bingen. It would be agendered, right? She is not non-binary. She rejects the notion that she is a woman at all. It's a lot. Interestingly enough, if we want to get into this, a lot of female mystics will become genderless. So, particularly like a lot of Black Christian female mystics, it's really, really fascinating. There's a lot
Yeah, that's
of
interesting. Like root workers?
no, sometimes they're straight up like faith healers,
Okay.
like Christian women, right? They are deeply, deeply Christian, but they understand their gender as being genderless, right? Because in the Christian worldview, God makes men and women for very specific purposes. So
Right.
to be neither of those things is sort of what the priest is supposed to be doing as well, right? That's why priests can't get married, or Catholic priests are not supposed to be married. They are not human in the same way that the rest of you are. They're above that, and so that is how you get there. To go to something like non-binary, I would talk about like David Bowie or Freddie Mercury to another extent, right? Like I might even talk about drag performers in that kind of that non-binary of switching between, right? Of playing with gender, of engaging with gender performance,
Right. Okay, that makes
meaningful,
sense.
but
Yeah.
self-defined, where an agender person is not engaging in gendered performance at all, and
Okay.
typically will reject other people's performance of gender, right? So like
Got it.
they
Okay.
won't treat you like a girl
yeah.
because they're not participating.
Okay. So just
Harry
to like
Styles. Sure.
because my Mercury is in Taurus, I just like have to simplify this. So then so agender is like a monk or a priest, and then non-binary is like David Bowie, Freddie Mercury types.
Yeah, more or less.
Okay. All right, that's easy for me to remember.
Yeah, I mean, I basically like when I was when you met me in Norwalk, I was basically, I mean, I would never call myself non-binary because I was you know, far too much of an idiot asshole to do that, right? I would be like, oh no, fuck non-binary, whatever, you know. I'd be like, oh, it's just
contrarian.
like oh, like that's pussy transgender, like just like commit, right? You know. Stick the needle in, right? Fucking like, what are you, just fence sitters here, right? You know, just a little trans elitism. But then I basically joined up with them because then when I stopped the hormones and my body started changing back slowly, it became impossible for me to blend in effectively, and so then I went in this thing where I was just going to be like notably and visibly transgender for a while and see how that went. And it was interesting. I got, you know, there was, you know, got into a lot of interesting interactions though. But people would, it's funny because, you know, whenever anyone would try and fuck with me, saying something transphobic or something like that, I would just come back at them with something like even more offensive than what they just said, and it just kind of melts their minds, right?
We know.
Because
Yeah,
they
we
know,
know.
they're like, what? I wasn't expecting that,
Mhm.
Because I don't know, this guy makes some comments about transgender people and kids, and I was like, oh well, at least we're not doing it with kids related to us, like you hillbilly.
By the way, Sam Among the Stars asked a really interesting question earlier, which is that if you have an afflicted moon, does it make it more difficult for you to practice magic?
That makes
And
it
again,
easier, way easier to
Mhm.
practice with an afflicted moon. You do
My
not
moon is
want
in
a normal,
Capricorn,
good, healthy moon if you
square
want to do
Venus.
magic, you want the moon to be kind of fucked,
Yeah.
right?
A
that's
happy
good
chart
news
does
for
not make for
you.
a good magician.
Wait, Cooper, did you say a happy childhood doesn't make for a good magician?
I said a happy chart, but a happy childhood is also true. It doesn't help. A
Oh,
little trauma goes a long way.
it's true. It's very true. Are we going to get to that,
Unfortunately.
Alex?
Well, I mean, I
We
talked
touched on
about
it a
the
little.
trauma in the
Okay.
beginning, but I mean, well, there's the idea that childhood trauma gives you magic powers, right? I mean, it basically the only thing it does is forcibly split the astral body away from the other two, and it opens that pathway very early and makes it easy to use. You can kind of start using it intuitively, and you can, especially if you have repeated instances of abuse like I did, then you can start to just disassociate, right? And you can just
Yeah.
go into the astral like at will,
Yeah.
right?
That's how I feel
So,
too. I feel like a lot of my magic comes from my ability to disassociate.
mhm.
And that came about from my own childhood trauma. And that it's interesting because that's a lot of what MK Ultra does too, right? Is
Yes,
The
inflicting
explicit
trauma.
purpose.
trauma-based
Explicit.
mind
To induce psychic
control.
abilities. That was the
Yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah. And it's
Hmm.
it's why like all these families uh
Yes, you did.
like
Old Queen Spooky.
yeah, like there's that whole thing of Epstein talking about wanting to abuse kids to give them psychic powers and stuff like this,
Mhm.
and he's got
Right.
and then there's that deposition where he's asked if he was ever raped when he was a kid, and he gets this like taunted look on his face, right? So it's just like, yeah, it's no one wants to talk about it, but it does happen, and it's basically like parents abusing their kids to like kind of pass on this occult gift, right? And the thing is funny is that I got a Bazi astrology reading earlier this year, and the astrologist told me that I was going to be in a Jupiter year, and I was going to be getting a gift from Jupiter, and the gift from Jupiter would have first shown up in my life when I was 6 years old, which is the first date that I showed on here for the childhood abuse. And so it's like, okay, thanks for the. I know you being raped when I was 6 years old gave me the magic powers. I don't. You died. Thanks for reminding me again. That's
Well,
cool.
the other thing is that, yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing about Jupiter for you is that it's afflicted in your birth chart, right? Even
Yeah.
though it's in Cancer and not in a pretty good house, it's still opposite Saturn. And
Yeah.
it's also opposite Uranus and Neptune, which I'm sure affects it as well. So I feel like something that I see with afflicted Jupiters is that Jupiter is always going to represent like victory and like personal growth. But if it's afflicted in your birth chart, it'll come at like some great cost.
Yeah.
And
So, total jump here. But while we're in a natural pause, Sam's
Oh
question
yeah.
is great. Yes, you can. LSD in particular is fantastic for dealing with spiritual trauma. My
I
general rule about
I don't think they're
hallucinogen
asking about healing trauma. I think they're asking about inducing trauma
to
with.
stimulant.
Now, so what you want for this is methamphetamine. This is what you want for this.
I
So if you
think you
want
should
to,
do what I was talking about
if
and
no,
not.
no, this is someone that wants to traumatize their mind to induce,
No,
right?
I
To
discourage it.
stimulate the trauma in a spiritual sense, right? They want their mind to be traumatized, right? That's what I'm reading. And
I feel
so,
like you're correct, but I like my version better.
sorry to interrupt you.
Okay. It's okay. It's fine.
Is
Don't
meth on the occult
stimulate.
chat bingo this week? Is it meth on the occult chat bingo this week?
Is what on the occult chat bingo
No,
this
it's
week?
not. It's
Meth?
not on the. No, it's not.
We've hit a lot of the. We're getting real close to a bingo. I'm certain. I have. Yes, ayahuasca tree, but with math. Sounds like absolutely has something to do with murder. That
It's
sounds
just
like
like
a true crime story.
Yeah, it was it starts to really get interesting around hour 60, right? Like that's when the shit starts to really come loose, right?
right, right,
And it's
right,
like people
right.
are in the fucking jungle, like spying on
Yeah,
each other and shit. They got
Christ.
binoculars.
Oh, Yuzuru wasn't here when we did occult chat bingo. We do have a bingo card, and we change it up every week. Episode 10's bingo card's pretty great. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not just saying that because I made it.
Also, it was Olive's idea, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
But yeah, I remember when I first did DMT, and I'm convinced till this day that I retrieved gnosis of astrology, because a part of my trip was that I was in this tunnel and there were these beings that I just felt like I knew, and one of them opened up a door in the tunnel, and there was this, it was the solar system, it was a galaxy, and they were like, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "Yeah." And we all left through the door and I blacked out. But but subsequently, astrology just made so much more sense to me, and I was able to do delineations off the cuff for people. So DMT is definitely. I'm not telling you guys go do it; you'll get gnosis, but I think
You
there's
might.
something there. But you might, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can have those kinds of experiences with substances, but you don't need to have substances to have those kinds of experiences.
That doesn't surprise me that Gordon White is the one who said that. Yeah, I think there's certainly a lot to the chemical shortcuts, and I am actually probably one of the more pro-drug magicians out there,
I'm very
who
pro
isn't
drug.
a straight up just take ayahuasca and that's a spiritual awakening, which it isn't.
No, it's
That's
not.
yeah.
There's precursors to
You know
that
what one
that
I
you have to
found
go
to be
through.
really good for rituals is ketamine.
Yes,
That
100%.
I
shit
could see
is
that.
fucking
Yeah.
Go
awesome
down a
for
K-hole.
magic. Yeah.
Again, I prefer acid.
I mean, acid is
I love
Booze if
acid.
you want to talk to the gods. Acid if you're going to do witchcraft.
Interesting. I
Lots
feel
of
like when I
different
did
rituals,
acid, I could
lots of
talk to
different
grass.
Yeah, the last time I had I tripped on mushrooms, and I ended up having this vision that there's these snakes, these 7 snakes, and they're all curled around each other, and I sensed that they were out of some kind of manifestation of planetary forces or some kind of force. There's 7 of them, and in the
Interesting.
vision, I get this scythe and I just slice off all their heads in one go.
Oh my
And
god.
and then the snakes are writhing and bleeding everywhere. And that was my vision the last time I took mushrooms.
We joined the side of the war on drugs. Yeah, I mean, true. We talk about Crowley a lot. I don't know why you guys thought that
We do, and
drugs wasn't going to be a part of this.
Basically so I realized that didn't actually finish the story. I talked about the detransition, but I didn't ever actually say why I detransitioned, which is what everyone asked. There were people asking. I mean, basically, if you guys want to know why I detransitioned, it was basically when I stopped taking the hormones and then testosterone started coming back into my system. My natural like bisexuality that had been suppressed by the estrogen and made me mainly interested in men, it came back, and I started being attracted to women again. And like, before I took the hormones, I was, fairly close bisexual, like 60-40, but preferred women slightly more. I dated more women than I did men, although I did date both. And then when I got on the estrogen, any attraction to women just like ceased. And I was just like, I didn't really want women. And then as soon as I went off the estrogen, that came back. And, I mean, when I was going around, and I don't have the estrogen feeling. I don't have these like feminine feelings. I have testosterone coursing through my system, so I feel like aggressive and shit. And I'm going around. I'm a lawyer, and I'm trans, and it's just like there's all this friction, and I'm just like, yeah, it was really like a cynical decision because I was like, all right, well, look, I feel like I don't really care about the whole cross-dressing transgender thing anymore. I feel like I've kind of got that out of my system. Like, I want to date women now. It's going to be easier to do that if I'm not trans. Make my job easier, make my life easier. So why not? I mean, I can't take the hormone. I don't want to take the hormones anyway because they screw up my magic. So why am I just walking around?
A life you don't want.
Right? I blacked out somehow. I dropped out. I'm
Tiny,
not
just for a second. Yeah.
It actually punctuated your point, so it kind of worked out well.
However, the thing is that I wanted to do this for a while, but I was holding myself back out of pride, right? Because I didn't want to seem like foolish. I didn't want to seem like I had made some mistake, right? Or that, I'm going back on everything now. And so that it took me a while. It took me like a year of talking about doing it before I actually did it. And I really realized that like the only thing keeping me was not really the perceptions of others because I didn't actually care about them. It's just like my own pride. And so I was like, all right, well, I guess I can get over that. Yeah, the thing that actually pushed me to do it though was that I had a series of like crazy synchronicities, and then I wound up in a hotel room, and instead of the Bible, they had the Bhagavad Gita, which I had been reading like before I left on this trip for this vacation, and like I opened the book, and it was to this like quote that perfectly applied to the situation I was in, and it was like, I don't know, I was like looking for a sign that I should do it. And then that was it, basically. And so I got my sign from the universe, hey, do it. So I did it. And because, when the universe.
It is strange to find the Bhagavad Gita instead of the Bible in an American hotel room.
Yeah. And it was in like fucking San Diego suburb,
In the suburbs?
If it was going to happen anywhere, it would be in California, but.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, but San Diego, though, San Diego's
still unusual.
Yeah.
And the suburb is unusual, too.
Yeah, right? Someone says bibliomancy. So this was actually the first divination technique I ever did, and I did it completely intuitively because what I was doing is I had the Bible out and I was asking my siblings, like, ask me a question, right? And then I would do bibliomancy to answer the question, right? And then my mom came in and said, oh, you can't be doing that. That's witchcraft.
She's not wrong.
Yeah, but she also does. She does magic rituals to like Mary and stuff. Basically like they pray to Mary. And they have these shrines to Mary. They do all this stuff. It was funny. I had a conversation with my dad the other day where I basically, when I talked to him about magic, I do it in code, and I was like basically doing Venus magic, but I phrased it as praying to Mary for him.
Right.
And he was like, well, that's good idea. It's good to pray to Mary. He's like, don't pray to God. The problem with God is like, he doesn't answer any of your prayers. He's like, I've asked God for stuff for 5 years before he finally tells me what the hell's going on. It's like, but Mary will answer. So pray to her instead. And it's just like, it's funny hearing him say that, because it's like, that's such a magical statement. I don't know, like the implications of that statement. I don't know. It's like about kind of invoking a entity or a deity versus praying, right? Like, because the Mary, I guess that they are prayers, but when you also give her an altar and a shrine and all of this other iconography and stuff like that, it starts to take on this. I feel like it's magical. Like when I look at their stuff, it has a similar kind of energy as like magic altars I have. I don't know. I
Catholic
mean,
magic is real. I mean, just because I don't like them doesn't mean I have to deny them. And even then, I like them more than the other parodies.
well, I mean, you were raised Catholic anyway, so.
Yeah, that's why, though. The Catholic to
Well,
occultist pipeline is very real.
yeah, it really is. So I wanted to sum up with this. So basically, like, don't like generalize my experience here and think that like, oh, this is how it goes. I'm likely a minority case. Like for anything you want to look at with me, like I'm not gonna do it the way other people do it. So also definitely don't give HRT to yourself to try and get magic powers. That was a joke. Yeah, and maybe don't make irreversible decisions if you're transgender, or at least give them their due consideration. And this was some of the advice that, I got when I was starting out, which seems to not be given out anymore, which is with the surgeries. There's lots of complications that can happen, especially with like the sex change surgery. And I had some people caution me against it, but when I look online, it's all just pro the sex change. But that wasn't what I heard from older transgender people that I was linked up with in my area. I don't know. I feel like people get way too worked up about transgender people. It's a tiny fraction of the population, and all of this hysterics about it is, I mean, I feel like it's overblown. It's like, oh my God, who gives a shit? Like what bathroom people use? Like, is it really like, you know what I mean? Like I mean, there's going to be, I think, anti-transgender bathroom law is not going to stop some psychotic crackhead in a dress from running into the women's bathroom, I don't know. I'm just saying that maybe transgender people are beat on a little too much. Now, there's always counter arguments, and this is one of the counter arguments that the detransitioners point to. Now, I'm not an activist detransitioner, right? I am far too nihilistic for that. I do not give a shit about anyone
I
else.
like
Really.
that take.
So,
Too nihilistic.
yeah, I'm not on any crusade to save children. I don't care if you want to castrate yourself with estrogen. Be my guest. Right, it's a free country. You have at it, right? But well, I'll go back to the castration thing in a minute because it's an interesting tangent. It might open up another conversation. But basically, the thing that people have been saying in the last few years, which is something that I caught on to. So basically, we see a weird trend that's happened with transgender people and the gender identity clinics, right? Now, we see how basically one of these groups grows at an exponential rate or way faster right here than all of these others. And when you go back to 2011, they were barely anything, right? And it's adolescent females, right?
Mhm.
Now, You know,
Mm.
there's been this kind of allegation among trans critical circles that there's some kind of psychogenic illness, or like just like they believe anorexia or body dysmorphia disorder can transmit as like a psychic virus or like a mind virus that transmits through media stories on it and stuff. People have been saying that it's a similar thing to this, but it's specifically for these adolescent females. Now, I don't know if I believe in all of that, but I do think it is a bit weird that there is an explosion, and more or less the other groups, are growing as well, but at a much more stable rate than this one, and it seems to have leveled off as well. So I do wonder what's going on and what the explanation for this is, because it is anomalous, but I'm not necessarily, I mean, it could be that there are, that transgenderism going viral caused a lot of people that wouldn't have otherwise identified with it to identify with it. I mean, that's basically what they're saying. That's what these detrans people say. They'll be like, all right, well, Tumblr showed me transgender content and I decided to cut off my tits, so I'm going to sue the doctor. You know, I don't know. I mean, honestly, like I do feel bad for the people that have gotten the surgeries and have transitioned and detransitioned and all this. And if you regret it, I do feel bad for you, right? Like, I mean, I don't really, because I don't feel bad for anyone. But like, if there was someone to feel bad for, it would be you. So, especially the guys that like cut off their dicks and everything with the whole sex change surgery. I mean, that's the worst. But basically, like, if you are blaming someone else for your decision, like, I don't know, like use your brain for a second, like think about it, right? Like you're gonna be putting these hormones in you, right? They're gonna be chopping you up. Like, didn't you think that something could go wrong, right? Didn't you think that like maybe this is important, right? Maybe you should be sure about this shit before you do it. I don't know. So I don't know. I basically don't like any side of this argument. What do you guys think?
I have lots of thoughts. One of them depends on, okay, so by natal sex and age. Okay. So
Yes.
it is young women
From that.
transitioning to men,
Yeah.
right?
So this is by
Okay.
birth sex. This is not.
Okay.
This is not
That's
a
what I
word
wasn't
diagram.
100%
Yeah.
clear of.
Yeah.
That's
So
interesting. I would have predicted the opposite.
Yeah, me
it
too.
would be so. So that's the thing is that historically males have been more, right? So historically,
Mhm.
it was male to female transgender that was the highest population, right? A lot higher than the FTMs, right? And then in the 90s, the FTMs started becoming more visible and there was more kind of awareness of it. And then now, roughly, the figures are 50-50, right? So transgender people, roughly equal amount of MTFs as there are FTMs. Uh, However, uh, this continued to explode way past, like this diagram continued to go way past. It's not at parity, right? It's way more, several times more than the males, right? So yeah, it's a lot of people I know who are detrans were lied to. Watchful waiting 18 plus, then probably making sure to do a psych eval to make sure there were no comorbidities. I mean, so the thing is, like, everyone's being lied to constantly all the time, right? And you need to be smart or else you're going to get fucked over, because that's how the world is. And you should do your own research and not just like, if you're an idiot to the point where you're going to make a life-changing medical decision just based off the word of one guy, even if he is a doctor, without looking into it for yourself, I don't really have that much sympathy for you, right? Like what is your problem, bro? Like fucking look into it before you just do something.
Right, look
What?
before you leap kind of vibes.
Yeah, exactly. The right and the left both seem to blow up on the trans issue, and it's still so niche. This conversation has taken the forefront, but it impacts so few. Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like
And
so
that
simple.
has a very practical explanation, right? It's super easy to scapegoat a population that makes everyone feel icky. And as much as progressive people will want to be like, we love trans people, sometimes, right? Like, and I'm not trying to say there aren't legitimate people who genuinely support this community. There are many, many, and should be. But there is also a lot of performance caught up in talking about a group of people, but not engaging with that group of people, right? So
Yes.
you've got people on my side of the political spectrum who are like, we love trans people and that's so amazing. But have any of us ever actually meaningfully engaged with trans communities? Probably not. Do we really care? No. It's why they're an easy group to attack, politically speaking, because the reality is that most cisgendered people, especially cisgendered women, who are essential to the left's political power, don't like trans people. Cisgendered women are, by and large, the group that is most anti-trans.
Oh
That's
yeah.
mostly because straight men like to have sex
Sure.
with trans women and pretend. It's really quite interesting to try and engage with some of that. And then you've got the right, where it's just an easy person to attack. They're a very, very small group, but they're very visible, right?
Mm.
It's not super hard to clock a trans person. I'm not saying every single trans person is obviously what you know what I mean, but yeah, libs love drag brunch,
So
libs
yeah.
RuPaul queerness, right? So like I get into a lot of arguments with my straight friends where I'm like, RuPaul is not great gay representation. I promise you, you are not learning anything about gay culture from watching RuPaul. I like that you have fun with it. I like that you're getting very good.
What? Are you serious? No way.
Yeah, I'm one of those. Here's a hot take from Cooper. I think drag is inherently misogynistic, and I think it's really fucked up for men to dress up as women and play up the most vile characteristics of women and femininity for a
It's
joke.
also
I think it's
yeah,
really
yeah.
really fucked up that men are dressing up as women to comment on a gender that we have historically oppressed, and gay men are at the center of that oppression in many ways, right? Like the fashion industry, modeling, visuals, all of the art around women that gay men create
Mm.
objectifies women and turns them into objects. It's why I would never tell a drag performer, like, you're a bad person and you shouldn't do this. Slow down, Coop. Do I think it isn't great? Yes. Do I think Americans as a whole suck at feminism? Yeah. But you know, that's a
I,
different issue.
I
And
mean,
so
I would say more importantly on the drag issue is that it's like tacky and gauche, and uh,
this
you
is true.
know,
But I like tacky and gauche things sometimes. I just don't like it when we pretend that gay men have any meaningful understanding of what it is to be a woman in the same way that women would have any meaningful understanding of what it is to be a gay
Right.
man. You
Well,
don't.
here's one thing that I saw a couple years ago. It was in a gay bar, drag performer, but it's a biological woman as a drag
That's the
queen. I
thing.
was like, what? I was like, you shouldn't be the drag king. Like, I thought the whole point was, but she's just like dressing up like a drag queen, even though she's a woman. So it's just like, all right,
It's playing the performance of a very particular type of femininity that is, in my argument, typically associated with the traits of femininity that are used to objectify women, right? Um, and sort of where Hyped Up Coffee's going, I don't necessarily think that drag is inherently sexual or whatever. I've been to like little kid drag readings. I actually think that makes so much more sense, like having a drag queen read books to children, than taking them as like serious political commentators and stuff like that. Like, I don't know why the fuck
Mm.
you care what the drag queen thinks about anything. I mean, other than how to put on a good show, because they're fun.
I
I
mean,
love them. I've had a
yeah,
lot of fun. Is it misogynistic? Often, yes. Do I think, and more to our original point here, do I think that like they are, we like to pick and choose when it's okay to to be offensive, right? To embrace stereotypes. And my
Mm.
autistic brain really
Damn.
doesn't like that because it's inconsistent and I don't like that. So that's my gist here. Again, I'm not trying to be like rah, 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 but I do think it is really interesting, and there is something worth talking about in that the pressure to perform queerness versus being queer. And so I have often been at odds with many queer circles. And someone asked earlier, am I gay or bisexual? Gay. But I've gotten into a lot of trouble. I shut down an LGBTQ organization. Like I became the president for the purpose of shutting it down.
Wait, what?
Because I became the president of an org because I thought it was inefficient and I thought it was a waste of resources and I thought those resources would be better allocated elsewhere. And so I took over the organization and then I dissolved it.
You know, I got like ostracized from the LGBT community.
That's not what I thought you were going to say.
I wasn't finished. There's more to it, the story.
Sorry.
But
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
The gist of it being, I became the president of this group because I wanted to change what the group was about, and then they weren't interested in that. So I was like, well, we already have an LGBTQ student union, and they get a massive amount of funding to do these events that you guys want to do. So you're just duplicating events. You're not actually advocating for queer students on campus, and like there's no all of that. So I was like, well, fuck this. This is a waste of money. This should be dissolved. Interesting enough, that didn't make me a lot of queer friends. So I've always been in a weird relationship to my sexual identity, and I think I'm very grateful of it. That when I was young, my mom put me in therapy and was like, you seem to be struggling. I don't know how to help you. This person is an expert. They probably can. And so she was the first person that I came out to, and her advice has stuck with me my whole life. And it is very much how I shape my queer identity and what I think about queerness and why I feel the way I do about it, which was very much like, unless somebody is trying to fuck you, why does your sexuality matter to them? Why is that a meaningful part of who you are? And I didn't have an answer for her. And she's like, other people will make it the center of who you are because it makes it easy for them to vilify you. But you have to decide for yourself, is this the center of my being? Is this the thing by which other people will get to define me? And if it is, great. That is a choice that you get to make. But if it isn't, you get to decide what defines you. And then you go from there. And so I have a very supportive family and everything. So I recognize in many ways my opinion is informed by that sort of privileged perspective of having been embraced. Right? Even my dad, who was a horrible piece of shit, chill on that front, right? So I want to admit I didn't grow up with my family throwing me out because I was gay or anything like that. So I understand why many queer people have glommed onto that and really do tie into that deviant outsider identity. What's really interesting and I think really exciting is that we are seeing young queer people not follow that because their experience is different. I think much in the same way that we saw that surge of people transitioning and then it's starting to die down, I suspect that it has a lot to do with just the social acceptability of it even being an option. Just like we saw a massive spike in the number of people reporting bisexuality, and it was particularly young women, like 40. Remember those, like 40% of Gen Z is bisexual. Like that can't.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It did not hold, right? It's roughly speaking, in any given human population, about 10 to 15% is going to be gay bisexual, and that's going to be biased toward bisexual. So you're going to have about like maybe 10% bi, 5% hardcore gay, and then everyone else is straightish. So I do think it is very interesting to look at when queer becomes an option, people try it on, and it doesn't always stick, right? And that is okay. I think there is a lot of morality and even to your point, Alex, about the pride, I think for a lot of people that hesitation to detransition or to change your identity comes from that morality play of coming out is supposed to be this massive singular truth, right? But the truth is I come out every single day. Every time I meet a new person, I have to come out again. And it is weird and it's an uncomfortable process. But that first time, I don't fucking remember. I don't give a shit. Couldn't tell you about it. Do I get anxious about the next time? Absolutely. And so I do think there is
to that point, I would say that things have actually gotten worse, right? Like as someone that was going around in 2012, 2013, cross-dressing and doing all my makeup and all of that, and like trying to look convincing. And then even later, 2014, 2015, 2016, which I was actually transitioning, most people I interacted with did not know what transgender people were, had never met one, didn't even hear about them. Now, granted, I am in the Midwest, in Indiana, but maybe if I was in a different place, more people would have heard. But the thing is that I noticed over the years that didn't stay like that, and people did start to hear about us, right? They did start to form opinions, and I got more transphobic hate and stuff later, like post 2020, than I ever did before that. Actually, like one of the things on the slideshow, there's a date that I've got pulled that's very close in time to when I got attacked on the street with this guy who started flirting with me, and then he realized that I was transgender midway through flirting with me, and got triggered and tried to attack me. Actually, so like he like lunged at me, right, trying to like push me, but because I know how to fight, I stepped out of the way and was able to just like avoid his strike and then get away from him. And I wasn't gonna fight him because I was on estrogen and really weak, and also he had like 5 inches on me. So and he looked like he was armed. And it turns out he was, because I found out later, because the thing is that I talked to my buddy, a good friend of mine who worked with me, and described the guy to him, and he was like, wait, I think that's one of my clients. And then we go and look him up on Twitter, and it's that guy that just attacked me. I was like, oh yeah, you represent this guy? What are you representing him on? Drug dealing. God. I was like, oh, well, that's not good. And it's like, well,
yeah, he's probably strapped.
I mean, he's in prison right now, that guy.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty close in time to when it happened. It was August, I believe.
The Jupiter oppositions seem awful for you.
Yeah, they do. They are. It's the Jupiter conjunct Saturn, right?
Yeah.
And this time
and
Pluto
your
was there.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a helter-skelter presentation on my part. I probably should have gone through that a little bit more, but whatever.
No, it was good. It was a good presentation. There was a question, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. There was an astrological question that someone had asked, which was they were asking about benefic hemmings and or benefic malefic hemmings in general.
Okay. Well,
so
before we start talking about the technicals of astrology, there was one thing I wanted to follow up on, like, because Hyped Up on Coffee's been posting some stuff like this. So, like, I've seen stories like this. There was actually a few years ago a story like this in town with like the drag queen went to this library, went to the library to like do a story time for these like daycare kids or something. And then the drag queen ends up getting arrested at the library, like right after the event. They have a gun on them, and they have felony convictions that prohibit them from possessing a gun. And those felony convictions are for raping kids or molesting kids. Sorry. So I thought that was like, I was like, oh my God, this is the perfect storm. This one didn't get any national news coverage, but I was like waiting for it. I was like, is this one going to blow up? Because it was like basically the worst.
I'm surprised.
The worst possible thing. Huh?
I'm surprised it didn't get more attention. That seems like
it was brushed under the rug.
I mean, I think that the prosecutor just, I mean, I don't think he just didn't make much of a stink about it. It's because the prosecutor is like, does this whole thing here where he's like publicly lefty, like, or that lefty optics, Democrat lefty optics, but like still does fucked up police state carceral shit.
It sounds about right.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's
it's kind of
insane.
like here's the black transgender prosecutor we've got now, and we're gonna not arrest you for weed, right? Even though it's illegal. But then if you get caught with like an ounce of K2, your ass is going to prison for 30 years.
Yeah.
So, you know.
K2?
Yeah, it's like this
Fake weed.
synthetic weed shit that is
Oh, I see.
regulated as Schedule 1 substance, which is on the same level as like crack and heroin. And the problem is like
I thought you were talking about the South Node.
no, it's just I think people also call it a K2 is an old word for it. They call it Katie. That's what all the spice heads
Kids
call
say?
it nowadays. Katie.
Katie.
I wanted to actually talk about because we briefly mentioned the whole castration thing, right? You mentioned the Eleusine mysteries and like the initiates there would be castrated. When I took the HRT, the estrogen, to block the testosterone and increase the estrogen, basically this is chemical castration, right? And what happens is your body stops producing testosterone, and so it was like I was castrated, I suppose, for that time. Now, what it does is it makes it also impossible to like orgasm when you're on that stuff. Like you can do it, but it's like really weak or like sometimes just not even there. It's like you can't even do it. Right? You can't even get there. So I basically if anyone knows anything about like occult practices with like tantra and stuff where there's sex magic where basically it's about like orgasm denial and semen retention and like not actually coming and then meditating and transmuting that all that sexual energy you've worked up into spiritual energy, right? And kind of what happened with me is like it was this pressure cooker because all of that stuff was building up because I was like having sex and stuff, and I had to find some way to transmute it, and it led me to like I happened to be doing these meditations that Steiner talks about in his books to try and develop your spiritual sight, at kind of the ideal time with these hormones, right? Because it removed out any kind of blockage towards getting to my astral body, right? Like I could just I was always able to plug into my astral body really intuitively and easily to begin with because of what happened to me in his childhood, but at this point it was like I was constantly swimming in it, and I could like it was like my astral body was like up here and it wasn't fully integrated with everything else, and it was like, and I could adopt that perspective if I tried, right? Like I could see the top of my head down like that if I at any point if I tried, and it was, and so like
that's crazy.
A few years like that with my astral body like kind of half in, half out, and I was always on the verge of falling asleep and stuff,
Whoa.
and yeah, it was interesting being a temporary castrato.
Did you just call it a castrato?
Isn't that what they call them?
Thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's a thing?
You're correct.
Oh.
So they would castrate young boys so their singing voices wouldn't go lower and they could maintain.
Oh my God.
The castrati.
That's awful.
A singular being castrato.
I thought he was just making up a word.
Nope. History's fucked up. I promise you.
Castrato.
We're living probably the best time in history.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
It's not a good time.
Yeah, I know, but it's just because everything's out in the open. Nothing's really changed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, kids have always been raped and sacrificed It's not new.
Unfortunately,
yeah.
anything precious can be made sacrificial.
Yes. I was gonna say though, Alex, that I do think that your intuition and psychic senses are really strong, but also your will and ability to manifest are also really strong. So I feel like you kind of have the best of both worlds. And maybe that's another one of Jupiter's gifts to you.
Yeah.
So that's where we get to my boy Crowley.
Yes.
And some of the esoteric elements of this. So like, why would the Eleusinian Mysteries do this, right? Like, obviously there's a reason. And it wasn't just because of it fit with the story, but there are a lot of
any chance to cut their balls off these guys are jumping at. It's like, all right, does this make sense? Are we sure this is like thematically like intact? It's like, no, just cut them off. Who cares?
That is craziness because they loved to fuck. They were making a true sacrifice. They lived in the culture that had figs and orgies, okay? That was the good times. And they were like, I'm going to give it up for God.
Pre-AIDS. Yeah, pre-AIDS.
Pre-AIDS
by like 4,000 years.
Yeah.
Like prime pre-AIDS territory.
So, I forgot where I was going with this. Right, Crowley. So his big shtick in the Confessions of Aleister Crowley, and it had been a really long time since I actually went back and read Crowley. So I have referred to this many, many times about like he had bitch titties as a little boy and he thought that made him more magically powerful. And if you don't know what bitch titties are, it's when you're fat as a man and have titties. So
I have them now. They're left over from the transition. I can demonstrate.
Funny enough, I'm at the first time in my life that I don't have them. I just have pecs. So,
I have bitch titties too, if I'm going to be perfectly honest here.
No, you're perfectly sized.
It can't be.
I'm definitely part of the itty bitty titty committee.
Happens to the best of us. So, here's a wonderful
Aleister people like that, you know. Saying.
So he's yapping about how he's such an amazing person, right? What a surprise. He's talking about his early childhood, and he goes, it is as if the mind and body of the boy were a mere medium being prepared for the expression of a complete soul already in existence. The word medium here is used almost exactly the same sense as in spiritualism. Then he goes on to talk about the congenital masochism of his body, which demands further investigation. And then he goes on in a very Crowley fashion.
Congenital masochism of his body. I love that. That's amazing.
It's so...
God damn, that's like so fucking emo. That's so emo. That's like, and Crowley totally would have posted on fucking Tumblr. Oh Crowley my God. He would have been like a notorious Tumblr user.
If Vampire the Masquerade had been out at the time, I think Crowley would never have practiced magic. He would have absolutely lost his life to LARPing. I don't think I can read this entire section in that voice. I'm not sure.
Oh, come on, please.
It's gonna break his voice.
I will try. So this is where he moves on, and he's now examining his unique body. Let's give it a try.
Okay.
It is probable that these peculiarities are connected with certain curious anatomical facts. Well, and for the record, I'm going to be saying his the whole time, but Crowley is writing about himself. He says he's talking about himself because he's an asshole.
Of course he is.
Well, his masculinity is above the normal, both physiologically and as witnessed by his powerful growth of beard. He has certain well-marked feminine characteristics. Not only are his limbs as slight and graceful as a girl's, but his breasts are developed to quite an abnormal degree. There is thus a sort of hermaphroditism in his physical structure, and this is naturally expressed in his mind. But whereas in most similar cases, the feminine qualities appear at the expense of manhood, in him they are added to a perfectly normal masculine type. The principal effect has been to enable him to understand the psychology of women, to look at any theory with comprehensive and impartial eyes, and to endow him with the maternal instincts on spiritual planes. He has thus been able to beat the women he has met at their own game and emerge from the battle of sex triumphant and scatheless. And he continues to go.
Cooper has frozen.
Crowley came
his
right
slight
over his
feminine.
grave.
Yeah. Crowley.
Oh no, the internet.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
the
It
internet
cut
cut out
out.
that
It
whole
cut
time.
out.
I thought I
His
did you
slight
justice.
feminine arms fucking gets me every single time.
It's so amazing.
He's
But
getting
yes,
and
like
it's so
the gist of it is-
disrespectful
all the way
to
back in
women.
1904.
So disrespectful.
Yes, it
Jesus
is.
Christ.
Yes, it is. Crowley is an asshole. Crowley is an asshole. But his point is, and where he is, again, broken clocks, right? He is correct that there is a certain degree of hermaphroditism that does come with magical mastery. You do need to cross both sides. You have to go through that. I've talked about it myself as a kid, growing up from probably like my earliest memories up until probably like 14, 15. I identified as a female and would very aggressively correct people like, no, I'm a girl, I'm not a boy. And then had this moment of like, no, actually I think I am a boy and I kind of like this. I'm going to try that and see how it goes.
It sounds more like autism than transgenderism.
Correct, which is what Crowley is also experiencing. And it's why autistic people are more likely to be queer and more likely to have transgender experiences, because our physical relationship and our mental relationship to our bodies and being is a little different. It is a little off kilter. It's why I very strongly argue that neurodivergence is a pro for magic as opposed to a negative thing.
Yeah, that's something you talk about.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. And the other thing you mentioned about being like, naturally hermaphroditic or slight or whatever, like I got mistaken for a girl a lot when I was a kid. When I was a boy, I had long hair and I would get mistaken by for a girl by adults a lot. And then when I grew up, I didn't grow any hair on my chest ever, right? I grew some on like my lower stomach, and I grew some hair on my legs, and no real hair on my arms. My arms stayed like peach fuzz, no dark hair on them. I don't know. I was always very like slight and skinny. I look more hermaphroditic now, but that's just because the estrogen gave me tits, and I haven't been able to get rid of them. Been trying to do magic to get rid of them, but I guess I need to hit the gym.
Probably has to be in tandem.
Do we have any bits and bobbles from the chat? Anything else that we want to tackle here? I think this is interesting.
There was a question like a while ago about Hemmings that I wanted to bring up.
Hemmings, right? We can talk about that.
There was an so the question that they were asking specifically was, do you consider it a Hemming when it is a planet in either in the signs that are to the left and to the right of the sign that the planet is in? So it would so if this were true, it would mean that any planets in the same sign, but to the right or the left, depending on the context, wouldn't count. It has to be in the signs next to it. That was the question. Is that how it works?
All right. Yeah. So this is actually kind of a controversial, inadvertently question in astrology circles, because there's this idea, because it's like, what zodiac are you going to use, right? Like, because the thing is that if you go by sign boundary, then there could be a situation where sidereally they do hem, but in tropical they don't, right? Because of this. Now, the way I do it is not the traditional way. I mean, I ignore sign boundaries always for everything. And so honestly, if it's like far enough away that it's not a conjunction, I'll count it as a hemming, even if it's in the same sign, right?
Interesting.
And I have seen I've seen other astrologers do that as well. I got my chart read by a Vedic guy, and he talked about how my Mercury was hemmed by Venus and the Sun, even though Venus is in the same sign as Mercury. So I don't think that, I think the rule should be if it's out of orb of a conjunction, then you can count it as a hemming. That's
I
what I think
see.
the rule should be. I don't know. There's probably competing rules. I think the most basic traditional rule is signs, to do it by sign. But I I don't do sign based techniques usually unless it's like perfections or something like that. Yeah, so I'm like the opposite of whole sign free bounce. Yes. I yeah, I think that the geometry of the planets matters more than the sign, right? Like if you've got like, let's look at for example here on this chart, which is like, we can just animate this back a few hours. We'll see here that the moon, when the moon was back here at like 29 degrees Sag, right? So moon is here, 29 degrees Sag, right? Now it's within 4 degrees, right, of making a square to Saturn, right? But by sign, they're trine, right? So if you use whole sign aspects, you would say this is Saturn trine the moon. But if you go by degree, it's almost a perfect square, right? And so, you know, I would, if this was a natal chart before me, I would interpret this as Saturn square the moon, not Saturn trine the moon, right? Just for as an example of like how you can have out of sign aspects happening. Someone says eunuchs had a lot of health issues like osteopenia, osteoporosis. Yeah, that's one of the problems with the whole transgender children and the transgender hormones, like the puberty blockers. It's this thing is that this whole protocol is based. It was developed in Denmark, and it was this experimental study that they had a small cohort, and then WPATH recommended these as like standards of care for adolescents, and then somehow it got moved on to even children. Um, I actually wrote a paper that was published in a law journal back in like 2016, like warning about all of this and saying that there was no long-term data about the health effects that giving these hormones this early will have, and we just don't know. And now, sure enough, it's 10 years later, and there's like a lot of reports of like people that took puberty blockers when they're like 12 years old are ending up with osteoporosis in their 30s, right? And that's really, really bad, right? Like that can really fuck up your life in a major way. Additionally, some of them have, like a famous one was Jazz Jennings, who was this famous, she was like an MTV reality star, transgender, and she was going to get her sex change surgery, but because her penis had never developed beyond like a child, there wasn't enough material to do a sex change surgery, and she had this amateur genitalia, and she couldn't even achieve orgasm with it. And there's all these problems, and then eventually they found some doctor that was able to do some kind of surgery, but it was like a huge hassle and shit. So the transgender kid thing is, I think, going to be viewed retroactively as a terrible debacle that was rushed into and not really researched that well. I mean, I think, whatever your opinion is of kids like transitioning socially, right, and presenting in a different way, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I think that um, it's just weird because the argument they use, right? The argument that transgender people and the transgender activists use is that, well, you've got to start the hormones as early as you can because you won't have a chance of passing as your chosen gender otherwise. And it's funny because this is the exact same argument that this like streamer clavicular makes as to why you should start using testosterone and anabolic steroids as soon as you hit puberty because you got a looks max and you've got to it's like, I don't know, I mean, it sounds stupid when this guy says it, but when people are talking about doing this to kids, then the other way, just because it's across sex, then they're like, oh yeah, that seems like, yeah, no problem with that, yeah, that should be good, right? We should, what could go wrong, just changing the entire hormone that the person's supposed to go through. I don't know. I think that the transgender kid thing, I think that it's probably safe at a certain threshold. I don't know how old, 14, 15, 16, something. I don't know. We need to study it and find out how much development the person needs before their system can handle these kinds of exogenous hormones. I don't know. It's like we don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway is we don't know.
Oh, I'm back. Okay, great. I don't know what you guys have talked about for the last 5 minutes because I haven't heard a damn word of it. But
Oh my gosh.
that's all right. I'm guessing it was about. Last I heard we were talking about you shouldn't give kids hormones to change their gender, and that kind of makes sense to me. I do have a lot of interesting hot takes, but I'll save them because they don't matter. I do think on a magical level they do matter.
I mean, Cooper, this is the
absolutely.
place for all the hot takes.
It is, but I still have to go to gay bars and stuff like that. So I, need to be a little careful. But one thing I have found is that I reject the notion that sexuality or gender are a valid basis for your identity.
A valid basis for human
When I talk
dignity,
about
is that what you said?
feminism, sorry, what? I think gender and sexuality are an invalid basis for an identity. I don't think
Yeah, I agree. I
personality.
agree. Well, maybe not gender. Or sex. I would agree sex is a good reason.
Thank you. I'll take that
But
correction.
not the gender. Yeah.
Yeah, sex and sexuality. Gender is on its face a personality expression. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And again, that comes from the good fortune of my sexuality not defining me in my family, right? And so my identity was able to be all of these other things. And it's really funny in again, sharing that perspective and why I think it's so important is like, if you talk to any of my family members at any point, none of them could ever tell you when Cooper came out because it's so obvious. There's the memories change to match that, if that makes sense, right?
Sure.
So like,
yeah.
If you asked my mom, like, when did Cooper come? She'd be like, I don't know. He was always gay. And I'd be like, well, no, we had a big conversation about this. And it's when it is an aspect of yourself, right? In the same way that like, I like anime is an aspect of myself. It is an important part of myself at times in contexts. In other times in contexts, it's entirely irrelevant. Where I really struggled with queer identity and why I have struggled with that word of like, am I queer? I don't know. At times in my life, I would have said yes, very aggressively. Now I think I would be the opposite, and I would say I am not queer.
I feel like queer is mainly a political identity.
I would agree, but I think being gay makes you more likely to be that.
Right.
And so where I would say I am not that is it's my sexuality does not inform my decision making about the world. It doesn't change how I view myself in relationship to other people. My religion is infinitely more important to how I make decisions and how I view the world. And you know, obviously we have to live within the society in which we live. So there's something about saying like, well, I don't want to care about it, and I don't allow it to define me, but I recognize it defines me for other people. And that's where I think being a magician comes into play and is very helpful, because if you are a magician or you're familiar with, you know, the satanic principle, people making assumptions about you is the best possible thing ever, because it allows you to take control of the situation by defying those assumptions and expectations. I also want to be like, how do I say it? So my friends will often describe me as a guy's gay, and I don't know what that means.
It means you have straight guy friends. It means you have straight guy friends. That's what it means.
But it's the girls who say this. It's the Haggets who are like, he's a guy's gay, not a gay gay. And
the hags are saying this to you?
Yes. They're out of control.
Bro. Fuck the hags.
No, they're all girls. My bros are the most, as I have said many, many times, heterosexual bros are an untapped resource for goodness in the universe. Given just the slightest bit of direction, bros can be very good. And I have done my work. I've raised up many bros who are wonderful allies to queers and women. But I do think my biggest critique of like LGBTQ pop politics over the last 5 to 10 years, and I would narrow it to that specifically, is that being queer is the center of a queer person's identity, and that it should be, and that if it isn't, you're secretly a homophobe or you're secretly a transphobe, right? So like if you're a transgender kid, right, or a gay kid, and you're coming out, that's supposed to be the center of everything, and everything's supposed to provoke, and it's so asinine and so backwards, because what, in my opinion, what it denies, and what queer people are denied by virtue of being in homophobic and transphobic societies is we don't get adolescence, right? Let's just be very pointed about that. Queer teenagers don't get an adolescence. I don't get to fumble around and figure out how to be awkward and express my feelings and have that be safe. Kids today are just now starting to get that. And I think that's why we will continue to see Gen Alpha's ideas about sex and sexuality will continue to probably look more like my own, which is, yeah, is it relevant? 100%. Is it important to me? Sure. Is it the center of my being? No. Is it the most important aspect of my being? No. And that, I think, will help with some of what we're seeing, where like you have people who might be questioning their gender identity in adolescence, which I think is a normal process. We also need to talk about that.
Yeah, that's when I started doing it. Yeah, I mentioned
questioning
that.
your gender
is cross-dressing and stuff when I was 12.
You know? It's not strange at all. The fact that we make it so prohibitively unacceptable is something worth talking about. When we look at earlier generations where gender roles were more tightly defined, interestingly enough, there are specific times where you swap genders. You play the other gender role. They are very specific. They're very controlled circumstances. But even when we look at some of the most conservative gendered societies on Earth, they do have these weird moments of trying on the other side, of participating in these identities. You know, like trans people have existed forever. They will exist forever. Gay people have existed forever, and they will exist forever. That is not going to change.
No, it's not. I actually do have an interesting question for you, though. I'm interested in your thoughts on this. So, because just from what you put forward as your argument as to why the identity is not important, right? So, like, basically, if I'm understanding you correctly, the problem with the gay identity is because what is it really identifying? Is it identifying, are you gay because you say so? Are you gay because you have gay sex? I mean, there's a lot of people that aren't gay, don't call themselves gay, that have gay sex. And there's a lot of gay people that call themselves gay that don't have gay sex because they're celibate or whatever. So it's like, how can you really define it? I think that actually transgender people have a more clearly identifiable objective characteristic once they actually make some alteration to their appearance, right? Or
Right.
their
That makes
physical body.
sense.
Once they have crossed the threshold of physically modifying themselves and their appearance, then you could say, okay, then that's more like something we would say like that's because that's an objective physical criteria, which is what the courts use. So that's something like sex or race or religion, stuff like that. That seems closer to me anyway. So I mean, I don't know. What do you think about that argument? Do you think like trans rights, gay rights, what has more validity in terms of this, whether we should be considered that it a real identity or not, or it's like, well, it's not about legally protected is I think what we're talking about, right? Like
kind of, and I would argue for legal
sanctioned.
protections. I don't think I have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is because you are gay, you are supposed to be X, or because you are trans, you are supposed to be Y. That's where you start to lose me. So like in my family, and this is my mom's best friend who is a Republican, and she's the only Republican in my life. And it is hard, but she is my mom's best friend and she's my aunt, and I can only say so much. But her reaction to when I came out was, he can't be gay. He's too messy. And she wasn't being funny. It wasn't a joke. She was dead ass serious. Like,
Yeah.
he's a slob. He can't be gay. And I'm like, wouldn't you be incorrect about that? But that's where I really, I struggle. So like where I'll get a lot from people is like, oh, you don't like RuPaul? And I was like, no. And they're like, oh, you're a fake gay. And I was like, well, given the amount of cock that I've sucked and the amount of bottoms that I've topped, I have a different opinion about that. I think I'm
fake gay because you don't like RuPaul.
Dude, I don't even want to talk about it. Do you know?
Nobody
has ever said more homophobic things to me than a trans person. So this is my like side beef where I get into fights with trans people a lot.
I mean,
despite the fact that I try to defend you all.
They're notoriously mentally stable, right? So that's why you must be fighting all of them. Is because they're so mentally stable.
No, I mean, Kismet has the point, right? I consider myself a true blue feminist. And my understanding of feminism is that gender should not be a qualifying element of your participation in society. So any aspect in Alex Rage Bates can particular. It's happened a couple times this episode, and I held my tongue a lot. Here we are. Yeah, to my point, I dislike the idea of anyone must be a thing because of exactly right the performance of it. Where there are elements of the performance of being gay that I like, right? I'm not trying to say super campy queer dudes are invalid. They're not. That is just one of the many, 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 many varieties of gay that there are. And I love the campy queens. I love them. I love the weird butch dudes. I like the people like me, the autistic, weird, nerdy gays. I like that there's all of that. And what I find most empowering and embracing and has been most important for me in my own life is that it actually is meaningless. And the power that other people put into it is reflective of their own reality. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with those qualities. Are there aspects of being a homosexual male that are great? Absolutely. Magically, right? Spiritually speaking, particularly gay men. Yes. Yep. 100%. It's of the queer mixes, if we want to talk about who's best magically, it's gay dudes, lesbians, maybe non-binary people before lesbians, and then lesbians, and then agendered people, and then straight people, and normal. You guys are at the bottom. So, and why, right? So, because you're normal, you're the average, you're what's out there, and that's great. There's nothing wrong.
Who's this? Who's this you here?
The audience. I mean, I to be fair, if you're following,
I think we have a lot of non-binary people in the audience.
Yeah, to be fair. Do you like autistic butch twinks? First of all, Olives, if we're outside of magic, I believe that butch lesbians are the superior human. I think genuinely, sincerely, I believe lesbians are better than all other humans. Then gay men, then bisexuals, then straight people. And in that order, for sure. With a big gap between bisexual and gay. Big gap. And that's, me. But I do think lesbians are better than gay men and are more trustworthy. But when it comes to magic, my people win.
I mean, I don't know.
I remember when I was like in high school and I went through like a non-binary phase, but I didn't even know what being non-binary was. I just had a pixie haircut and liked to dress in boy clothes, but I still liked boys. And it was interesting because it was like I went to a high school in a pretty like hippie hipster area in California. So all of my friends were coming out as gay and they were like dating each other and then breaking up and dating other girls. And it was just like this whole thing where like none of us had really grown up with it in like middle school or elementary school. But once it started to happen in high school, we were like, oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay, whatever. It was so just like a shrug, and no one used it as an identity. We all knew who was gay, but like we weren't like the gay one, or we weren't like the non-binary one. It was just like, oh yeah, it's like her.
This must be like a Los Angeles thing because when for me it was not like that. Like I was wearing skinny
like I even like went through a whole phase when I was like when I was 18 years old where I'd make out with my friends and we were just like experimenting with like how that felt, we just get really drunk. Yeah, we just get really drunk and like make out and like sometimes we liked it, but I never actually wanted to go further with it because the thought of like eating a girl out grossed me out so much. But I liked kissing a girl. So it's interesting, like the cultural differences
and
between the Midwest and LA.
Well, also, women versus men, you guys can get away with doing the play gay stuff, right? And just like, oh, we're just making out because we're friends, right? Like guys cannot do that. Guys cannot do that.
Well, in the media, there was like girls making out with each other or girls having sex with each other was glorified for men's pleasure.
Yeah. It's called barsexual. It's called barsexuals. You call the women that make out with each other in clubs for male attention are called barsexual.
Barsexual.
Yeah.
I've never heard
it happened behind closed doors for me, so I don't know.
I mean, who among us has not had an experiment or two? I lost my virginity in a bisexual three-way. I figured out what I was into and what I wasn't into in one go.
A three-way, huh? Damn.
After Chinese class, the hot guy was drinking in class, and me and the girl were like, one of us is fucking him tonight. Turns out, both of us.
We both were. That's amazing. Oh my God, that's amazing Cooper lore. Holy shit. Dude, that's hardcore.
It was the last time that I ever touched box. I don't get it. But whatever.
I don't get it either.
It's not for me. I'm glad that other people love it. That's great. I kissed a girl and I liked it. The music.
Yeah.
I've
actually around the time the song came out.
I've never really identified as bisexual. I've always just said that I'm too horny to discriminate.
I could see that. That's very Jupiter energy.
That is very Jupiter energy.
Like I don't know. I mean, I just see it as like people are hot, right? And it's like if they're hot enough, I will fuck them, right? It doesn't matter. Like that's
called bisexual. I'm glad that we got there.
I mean, I guess if that's what you want to call it, sure. I mean, you could call it, joyriding as well.
Oh, what was that? Is that your margarita?
I knocked over a vase. It was empty though. I emptied it earlier today, so it was just in. That's why I didn't expect it to be there.
Got any more questions for us about this stuff? Again, this is the one time I'm talking about this subject publicly ever, so get your questions in now. I'm sick of the questions on Twitter. Whatever personally invasive question you want to ask me, do it now while I've got that good humor. Expansion of pool of who you're attracted to.
That's
Oh,
work.
I mean, yeah, that's a big advantage of bisexuality is that you don't immediately eliminate 50% of the potential matches,
Right.
right? So it's
Sure, yeah.
like, logically, efficiency wise, the way to go. It's highest chance that you'll find someone to have sex with.
I mean, correct. Yeah, that's true.
I'm curious about Hope. What did you think about Alex about learning about him? No worries if too personal to answer, lol.
Well, I met Alex when he was still in that like non-binary trans tra God, I'm
Not
fucking it
cis.
up, right? But
Yeah.
he was still, yeah, presenting as like a non-binary woman. And I was attracted to Alex. But I think I was like too straight to realize that he thought I was cute. And
Well, yeah.
right. I
Well,
was
so the thing is, what happened is, so she was giving me signals. Like I interpreted that she liked me, but then whenever when I would touch you, you were like treating me like I was a girlfriend touching you, right? And so
because
then
I
I was
didn't
like,
think that
okay,
you
she
liked
doesn't see me
me.
as like a threat, so I guess there's nothing here, right? I don't know. Like
Yeah.
if someone you have sexual tension with touches you, it's like a different response. But I don't know. I mean, I think that's why it wasn't immediate, at least for me.
Yeah,
Um,
well, the thing is I had it in my brain that like if you're a trans woman, you like men, which is
right.
obviously such a constrictive way of viewing trans women, but I thought so. I had no idea. I didn't know that you were flirting with me. But we kept talking, and I always had respect for Alex. I loved how outspoken he was, and I loved how he just, didn't try to cater to the masses and was just super authentic. Um, and yeah, he detransitioned, came out public, and I went on Astro Live for the first time, and we were on the stream together, and I was like, Alex is super hot. Actually, prior to that, we went out to brunch when he was still a
It
trans
was the week
woman.
I detransitioned because I
It was the week he
detransitioned over a
decided.
week in California,
Yeah,
basically.
he was in California, and it was the week that he had decided to detransition, like mentally. I didn't know. And
But you saw the shift in the way I was carrying myself because I was carrying myself more.
intuitively, I
I
caught
had
it.
already started like
Wait, let
I
me tell
still
the
had.
story. Let me
Go ahead,
you're
sorry.
getting way ahead. You're getting way ahead of the story. So what happened was we were at brunch, and Alex was fucking hung over as shit. And he was sitting across from me, and he still had his long hair, he was in his clothes, and I had this thought pop in my head where I was like, Alex is a fucking hot man. And it was weird because he wasn't, but that was what occurred to me. And I was like, Alex is really fucking hot. And I didn't know at the time that you had decided to detransition into a man. And I must have like intuitively caught that because
Yeah, it was the
I,
day before I cut off all my hair. It was the day I met you.
yeah,
Do you
I
yeah.
had
recall
hair
a
down to my
conversation?
tits. Huh?
Huh?
Do you remember a conversation you and I had once about your gender, where you tried to bait me into trying to guess your gender, and I very diplomatically replied, "It'll be whatever you decide it is," because I had implied that you had a masculine approach to magic, and
Mhm.
you
Right.
were
That's
like,
definitely
"Oh,
Yeah.
true.
no."
That's definitely
Yeah,
true.
and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay,
I mean,
yep, whatever
so
you said."
so this other person has got a relevant comment here right now. What are your
Hmm.
thoughts on autogynephilia? Do you think it applied to you, and can you spot it in a chart?
What's
Okay.
that? Autogynephilia.
Autogynephilia. So this is a term coined by the psychologist Ray Blanchard, who was a sexologist that made his name studying transgender people in the 1970s and 1980s. And what he did is he typified, so he studied male to female transsexuals, and he divided them into two groups. There was the homosexual transsexual, which was the MTF that had sex with men, right? That was one type. And then the other type were autogynephiliacs, who were men that were attracted to women primarily, although some were bisexual.
Okay.
But they have a sexual fetish for imagining themselves as a woman, right? And so sexual arousal comes from basically dressing up as a woman, imagining oneself as a woman, fantasizing about having sex while you're the other gender, right? This type of thing, autogynephilia. Now, the thing is that, this kind of false dichotomy among MTFs, this homosexual, transsexual, and autogynephilia, it really is, in my opinion, a kind of false dichotomy, because I have known people from trans women that were attracted to women that did not get sexually aroused by the cross-dressing, and then I've known transgender women that were attracted to men that did, right? And so it's like, I don't think that you can cleanly delineate who has a fetish for cross-dressing based on what their sexual orientation is, which is what Blanchard attempted to do. Now, if we look at autogynephilia more broadly as a fetish for or arousal by a man imagining himself as a woman or changing himself into a woman, then that's not exactly what Ray Blanchard says. But if we want to talk about that, I'd be happy to talk about that. I'll tell you that the thing that kind of was like a, what do you call it? Like, not a red pill moment, but it's a moment when you get like, when your conception is first shattered, you pop your cherry or something like that.
Sure, like a
I don't know. But like, my first idea that any of this was possible, any of this transgender business was possible, was watching the movie Mrs. Doubtfire when I was like 5 or 6 years old. And I remember I was transfixed by the scene where they took Robin Williams up and they did his makeup and the prosthetics and stuff and changed him into all these different women. And it was like a montage where he's getting changed into all these different women, right? And I remember watching that section of Mrs. Doubtfire over and over on the VHS, like rewinding that shit and playing it. And I was just like, there was something about it that was like, some recognition flickering. I think that in terms of the arousal stuff, like, a lot of times it is about it is like people do it for a thrill like that. It is arousing. I mean, a lot of people don't want to admit that, right? A lot of transgender people don't want to admit that. They don't want to, but look, sorry girls to put you guys on blast, but like, I was in the group chats, right? I saw the sissy porn, right? Like, you can't lie to me, all right? Like, I know what you guys are into. So,
Wait, what's sissy porn?
It's that we should not talk about what sissy porn is.
I was gonna say, this is about to.
Oh, okay.
It's exactly what it sounds like it is.
Is there chat messages?
Babe, we can't see you.
Oh.
You're spinning on the camera.
I was just looking at the messages for other.
By the way,
questions.
Zero Gold was talking about how they were eating Panda Express, and that made me so hungry. So I ordered Panda Express too, and I just got it. That's why I left the screen. I'm so excited to eat it.
You should just start eating it on stream.
I want to.
Just like pig
Just
out in
turn
front
this
of
into a
everyone.
mukbang.
Honestly, I do amazing mukbangs.
I honestly could see that.
Yeah.
You're a Taurus. You know how to eat.
Oh, for sure. I make Alex hungry, and he like never has an appetite. You've never had Panda Express, girl. You are missing out. It's the best
like
Chinese food. I know that's a controversial take.
That is a massively controversial.
I know it's a controversial take, but I will. This is the hill I will die on. Panda Express is the best Chinese food of all time.
I feel like
I will die on that hill.
The way I ease into unconsciousness after eating Panda Express, it makes me think that they're putting fentanyl in it or something.
Like
I could see that actually, yes. I'm okay with Panda Express. We have Minneapolis has a lot of Asian people in it. If you don't know,
I didn't know that.
So I'm very fussy about my Asian food, and I lived in Japan, right? So like, doubly an asshole about it.
Listen, I live in Los Angeles, and I have access to.
Yeah, to be fair, you should be way fussier than me. I can't believe you're hyping up Panda Express.
Panda Express is so fucking good. It's so consistent too. It's always good. It's never dry. You know, they're so consistent.
Clearly, you have never been to a Panda Express in the hood.
I was going to say,
you would not be saying this.
I've been to a Panda Express in the
LA
hood.
Privilege. Because most Panda Expresses
LA
here
is
are terrible.
LA is like half hood, and I've had Panda Express at the hood. It is still bomb. But
I'm glad to hear it because it's shit here.
Wait, so Olives asked this a while ago. Could you go over more queer aspects and / trans aspects in natal charts?
Yeah, so Firmicus Maternus says, we covered this, like where if Venus and Mercury are conjunct and they're afflicted by Saturn, it will make homosexuals. So he says that, in women, the Saturn makes women that dress in masculine way. And if Saturn is afflicting Venus and Mercury for men, it makes effeminate men and all of this. Interesting thing to note is that when I have been using some of the old Firmicus Maternus delineations on homosexuality, I used them on like this elderly client I had, and he's not gay, but he has the signature, but he ended up getting prostate cancer, right? And so I'm wondering, that's also an affliction to like the male organ, right? And so I feel like sometimes maybe if it doesn't show up as homosexuality, it shows up like something like that, for example. Another classic example, other than Venus and Mercury conjunct and afflicted, that's the biggest one. The other one would be, afflicted Venus, afflicted Jupiter. I've noticed that there's a lot of it tends to be more Saturn than Mars, right? Like when Mars is afflicting Venus and Mercury, it tends to make very brash, outgoing, like highly sexual types. And, like Firmicus Maternus says it makes like whores and pimps and madams, right?
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of the thing you go into when Mars the affliction. So you really want to look for, Venus, Mercury afflicted by Saturn, also Rahu. So for men specifically, Rahu in like the bottom part of the chart, like 3, 4, 5, like in that area, I've noticed it's like seems to be a lot of like iffy one. They're what are they called? Zesty.
Yeah.
On the ascendant too, right?
No, not on the ascendant. No, it's got to be. It's specifically. I think it's like. I mean, the fourth house is what the old books say, but
Yeah.
I've noticed it
Oh,
in
that's
the
what you
third and
have.
fifth. Yes, I have it exactly on the IC. I have Rahu exactly on the IC.
You are very zesty.
Other ones is if you have the nodes in the third and ninth axis. So this one, I think I think women it needs to be Rahu in the ninth, and for men it needs to be Ketu in the ninth, and that's supposed to be another gay one.
Interesting.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of any others I can remember off the top of my head.
Yes, Saturn Venus is the one that Valens is.
That's yeah.
That I remember from Vedius Valens. Because that's the one that stands out in my mind where I was like, oh wow, I just got called a fag from 2,000 years ago in the past. Because he's just like going through all of like, this will make you a homosexual, and I was like, oh wow, that's my whole chart. Okay, cool, thank you so much. I just got called a homo from 2,000 years in the past. That's tragic.
Yeah, that happens.
right.
They'll say things like you'll fall off a cliff. You know, you will suffer incredible head injuries. I've read so many of those.
I miss
violent
back when
death was a
astrology
lot
was
more common
terrifying.
back then.
Yeah.
Also true.
I mean, I could still fall, crack my head. Knock on
I'm
wood.
looking for this astro quiz I did way back in the day. Oh yeah, here I found it. Here, let me share the screen.
Uranus is also often associated with queer identities, but that's has more to do with Uranus being disruptive of its time and circumstance than necessarily Uranus is queer. If you lived in a culture where queerness was normal, Uranus would not probably have as much of an impact there.
So here was an old astro quiz I did. Right, let's see if you guys can do it based on what we just told you. All right. So it says here are the charts of 4 people. 3 are gay. Choose the straight one. All right. So this is chart number 1. I wish we could get these all on the screen at once, but it's not going to let us. All right. What do we think? Is this person gay or not?
No, but they're loose.
No, they are gay. They're lesbian.
Damn.
So Mercury and Venus in the 9th house. Hold on. So
Also, there's only 1 out of 4 that's straight.
Venus.
I wasn't paying attention. I thought we had to guess the gay. Sorry.
No, the 3 of them are gay.
squaring
1 is straight. You have to
Mercury.
find the straight person.
This is definitely gay. It's Saturn's opposite
Mars,
Mercury
Saturn
and Venus.
conjunct the
Mercury and
moon.
Venus are conjunct. Yeah, Venus is combust. Mars is
Also
making
Jupiter
a square to
chart
Mercury. And Jupiter is on the MC. Yeah.
All right. Number 2.
Where's Venus?
Someone's asking if you could zoom in.
Leo.
Yeah. I'm trying to zoom. Here, let me put it in another.
Open.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and then you can zoom in from there. There we go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mercury is retrograde. Is it a malefic coming? Square Saturn. Where's Venus? 21 degrees. Yeah, gay.
Maybe. Show me the next one.
All right, yeah. Next one. Saturn conjunct Venus, opposite the moon.
This one's looking very gay.
5th, Mars combust in the 9th. Daddy issues for sure.
I'm a little unsure about this one.
Where's your thought? Where's your mind at?
I feel like this person could be actually really popular.
Well, they could be a popular gay. Right?
Yeah, that's true. I'm not counting out that they're gay. But they do seem very popular to me.
I
The
still
Venus
People are
think
Saturn-
saying gay. People are saying gay. Chart C is gay.
number 2
That's
is the
Scott's
straightest
saying.
chart so far.
Okay. All right. Now number 3 or number 4.
Let's see. Gay.
So this one actually has the classic signature that I pointed out by Firmicus Maternus, where Venus and Mercury are conjunct and they're receiving an affliction from Saturn. They're square Saturn, both of them. Yeah, so actually the correct answer for the not gay one is B. B is not gay.
Number
okay.
2!
Got it,
Yeah, number
Cooper.
2.
I can smell it straight from
That's the
above.
one you passed on. That's the one you passed on.
That's the one that I passed on.
Entirely because of the moon sun
Or, I mean, that was gay.
sextile.
Moon
Yeah,
is
this
sextile.
is probably the least homosexual person I know,
Yeah.
right? And would be the least likely to engage in any kind of homosexual activity, and that's why I chose her chart for this.
Well, I'm glad I made a mistake. You always learn better when you make mistakes.
Yeah.
Well, this is a
I mean,
tricky
I
one,
guess
too.
people could have like looked at that like Pluto, Mars, nodes thing going on in the 2nd and the 8th and been like, ooh, that's dark, but it's like
No,
not,
that's
not gay,
childhood best friend.
you know?
Is like your ride or die. Like there's some kind of intense friendship there. It would be my bet.
I mean, this person
Let's check
did
it out.
have a very intense childhood, and in terms of like betrayals by close friends that were like very significant, that like, you know, like mentally damaged
Yeah.
for a lasting time period. Yeah, that's this person all over.
That makes sense. Yeah, that moon is in a tough spot in her chart.
Yeah, on the node in Mars, yeah.
In the 8th house, too, on top of it. Yeah, no, that's not good. But,
This is a woman's chart, Yuzuru. Not a man, it's a woman.
Intuitively thought that.
Also
Unless
the
you
thing
already said
is,
it. Right.
the aggressive male signature that you're looking for is Mars in the 7th house. Mars in the 7th house. Now, Mars in the 8th house is also said to be malefic. However, it's Mars is not as powerful here. So Mars is in reverse phase. So Mars is a morning star here, but Mars is setting. Right. So Mars is headed towards the descendant and it's going after the sun. So Mars is already risen and crested over the midheaven and it started to fall. Right. And so the malefic Mars in the 8th happens when the sun, when it's an evening star. And so the sun would need to be in Aries or Pisces or Aquarius in order for this to be like the bad 8th house Mars that you hear about. For this type of Mars, it is actually I forget the Hindu name for it, but it's this yoga that basically means Mars and moon conjunct. And when it takes place in the horoscope of a female, it says that they make great business leaders, right? And that they are women that practice in male fields and all of this. And she is like that. So I would say that this 8th house deals with the fact that she is dealing with other people's business. It's like important because she was like worked in marketing and stuff and was like dealing with other people's image, other people's reputation, other people's shit. And but she was on top of it, right? And so the moon Mars here is actually good. And that's because the nodes do well in the 2nd, 8th house axis. Having the nodes in the 2nd and the 8th basically makes the nodes good for you, unless there's specific considerations that we don't have time to get in here today. But overall, good to have the nodes in the 2nd and the 8th. for this person in particular, Rahu in the 2nd and Ketu in the 8th, this is associated with pattern recognition, being good with numbers and finances, being a good astrologer, being a good scientist or researcher, things like this. And she also has a degree in psychology and has participated in psychological research as well as doing like marketing and stuff like that. So yeah, that is basically the thing is that the nodes are benefic in this chart basically, and that's what's throwing you off by making you think it's bad because it's the 8th house and it's the moon and the Mars and the node, but it's actually good.
I mean, good later on.
Yeah, it might have caused some problems for her growing up.
Yeah.
What book talks about the various yogas, Alex? All right. Well, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, so if you want, I mean, you can just get Ernst Wilhelm's book, Core Yogas. Just get that one. You can read the actual texts later. Ernst Wilhelm does a pretty good job with the yogas. And it's more accessible than reading the old text. I mean, I read the old text first before I read Wilhelm, and I was like, damn, I wish I would have read Wilhelm first. So just read Wilhelm.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, are we about ready to wrap this up?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Anyone have any closing thoughts or anything where you?
We got to do a cult chat bingo.
Oh, we got to do the bingo. That's right.
Yeah.
Shit.
I'm very quickly filling it in because I may or may not have forgot to do it during the episode.
It's okay. The audience could probably
did we have a cryptic lore drop? That's a good question because I don't know.
I mean, I disclosed I was raped when I was 6.
But that's not even cryptic, and we've done that one before. I need better. That's got to be more cryptic.
I guess.
Cryptic lore drop. I guess I talked about my non-binary phase, but it wasn't cryptic.
Yeah,
me and Hope talked about our first meeting and trying to suss out whether or not we were attracted to each other.
That's true.
That's not really cryptic. That's cute, really.
That's just a meet cute. That's ain't cryptic.
I mean, I talked about. I mean, I could do a cryptic.
Are we over 3 hours?
Right now.
We are over 3 hours. Yep. Mm-hmm. Alex actually didn't. So I thought I was really clever with this edition of Alex, and we'll talk about it. We didn't get there, which actually kind of breaks my heart. Wow, we actually didn't hit as many of these as I thought we would. I think that's fair. Okay, all right. I'm so sorry, chat. We did not get a bingo today.
What?
No, we
Are
got
you sure?
very close, and we may
us?
have gotten there.
Okay.
Oh, me losing my virginity in a threesome is that cryptic? I feel like that's very on brand.
Yeah, we weren't cryptic about any of the lore.
What is cryptic? So, well, I mean, I mentioned getting kicked out of the LGBT club in law school, but didn't say why.
Again, that tracks. That cryptic to
I
me.
got kicked out.
Well, show us the bingo card.
Oh, sorry, I just sent it in the chat. Otherwise, I can do it in here. I think, right? How do I do that? I click this button, and then I click this button, and then I click this button, and then I click that button, and now you all can see it.
Okay.
Here is Occult Bingo today. Oh, we're in the way. How do I move us? There we go. All right. Here's this week's Occult Bingo. So we got Hope got distracted by chat.
Yeah, it happens.
Right. Cryptic
time.
drop, fine, but barely. My own tangent set me off multiple times. MK Ultra got a drop. Alex definitely at many times floated libertarian ideas.
I AFK without mentioning it several times.
You did AFK without mentioning it. You're right.
We got bingo. We got a bingo.
We got the O's. We got the O for everybody.
Hope says what? I can't read that.
Hope
Oh,
AFKs.
AFKs without mentioning. Okay, yeah. Yeah, we did. All right,
Is there
what are the other
anything-
bingos in this thing? So cryptic lore drop, chat. I can't fucking read any of
Here's
this
the
shit.
corrected one. Here's the corrected one. I can't help that you can't read.
Yeah, why can't
Chat
you see it?
I don't know.
Chat fact checks us and is right. You did not fact check us this time, but usually you do fact check us and are right.
It's true.
We didn't get Austin Osman Spare. I really thought Chaos Magic was going to come up here. I really thought that was going to be a freebie. Twitter beef rehashed. We didn't even touch it.
Oh,
Not with a 10
AFK
foot pole.
Zero Gold is away from keyboard.
Oh, yeah. Hyping up prior guests. Shockingly, we didn't glaze anybody.
Shockingly,
no
we
anime
didn't glaze
recommendations.
anyone. Huh, interesting. No anime
Did I
recommendations. No, you
I
haven't.
recommended The Wheel of Time, which is not anime. Grossly paraphrasing historical events. Not really this time. Alex giving
my summaries
some
were pretty accurate this time.
That's what I'm saying. That we didn't grossly paraphrase them.
I gave a great rundown of Ray Blanchard on the fly.
Actually, that was shocking. I was like, wow, why does he know so much about this specific dude?
I was thinking that too.
It's because Ray Blanchard is like, it's a whole 4chan meme, right?
Oh yeah, you're such an internet kid.
Wars on 4chan. They love and hate this guy. There's so much lore and shit I could get into. Look, did I spend my time the best? No, but I did have fun. It says Alex gives I know that's why I said it energy. I mean, I give that like just fucking breathing. You know.
I love this, but no, it doesn't count. Because Alex didn't try to sell the Jupiter talismans this time or anything
they're
else.
sold out. And also I've never brought them up. The other people always bring them up. But
I didn't say it was Alex makes an enchantment plug. I just said enchantment plug. And we didn't get a Cooper being like, well, in Asia they do it this way. Like the East Asian match. We didn't get any of that.
We didn't get any of that.
No LeVay. I referenced the satanic principle, but we didn't call out LeVay.
We also didn't rehash any Twitter beef.
That's so shocking to me.
I'm shocked too, because that was just last week and it's pretty it's on the hot plates. It is.
I'm shocked we got this bingo. I have to be. I thought I made this week's card pretty hard. If you don't know this quote, like I know that's why I said it. It's that racist lady who's like, she's getting bullied by these black girls and she's like, apparently just calls them a bunch of slurs. And in the news clip, the reporter is interviewing her and she's like, well, don't you understand that's incredibly offensive? And the lady just no hesitation goes, I know, that's why I said it. And that is Alex in my mind. Like he is that old lady, but him, like it's that energy. And this one will stay on here because we usually get it. I want this one to come back, but our first bingo.
We got bingo the first time we did it.
I thought we didn't get it.
I thought we got it. We didn't?
Did we do it last time?
We didn't do it
last week. And then we did week 8.
Last shows
we didn't do it last week. We didn't do it last week.
Well, maybe it's our second bingo. Maybe it's our first bingo.
I think it's a second.
Either way, we got it.
Either way, we got it.
So proud of everyone. Congratulations.
Yeah. We're so predictable. I love it.
All right. Well, I think that's a great occult chat. If we're ready
to wrap there. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Love seeing all the same people.
Faces,
all the familiar faces, familiar names, and avatars, everyone in the chat. It's always so much fun.
So I still haven't finished last week's episode.
It's fucking long.
Enjoy all of our occult
This one is going to be almost as long.
Yeah.
Although we did just do a lot of idle chit chatting. That other one was packed.
It is a lot of like, you could just listen to this like on your commute, like if you don't tune in live, like if you're on the train, something you're doing like tedious tasks at home, you could just have it on. It's so long.
Oh, right. You're talking about me?
Oh yeah, because her Chiron's in Leo. Because
Yeah,
I know because we're born the same year,
yeah.
and
Where's your
um,
Chiron, Hope?
it's on your moon. My
In the
Chiron's like
same
at
pot?
my
Right,
Chiron's at like 21 degrees.
right.
So if
Man,
anyone has moon and Chiron synastry, it's me and Alex.
so this whole thing with Chiron, everyone talks about Chiron being the wounded healer. I am not so convinced that Chiron has any kind of like healing quality to it, or there's any kind of beneficence to it. The examples of things I've seen, so at Yotir Astrology, um, he's posted several times about Chiron stations being associated with like freak accidents where people will die in these like insane ways where
Yeah.
some like it's like a Rube Goldberg machine death trap where a series of things set off and then the whole factory explodes, right? And I've also seen it when I have had natal chart readings where Chiron was getting major activated. I've seen stuff like car accidents where like half of their family passes away, right? Like just like brutal and senseless tragedies is what I have discovered with Chiron. The most Chironic experience I ever had was I watched the total solar eclipse conjunct Chiron. And then the person I watched it with afterwards broke down, made this confession to me about all of this horrible shit that happened when she was a kid and like the abuse her parents put her through and stuff, and how they were pimping her out and stuff like this. And um, it was just like, and had a breakdown in my living room right after watching the eclipse with me. And so it's like, I don't know, those are my Chiron experiences. There's not much healing going on in those. I don't know.
Yeah. I think the thing that people forget about the myth of Chiron is like, so if you don't know, he's struck by an arrow from Hercules that poisons him with the Hydra's poison. But because he is immortal, he is divine, he cannot die. And so
Oh
in a later myth,
God.
yeah, he gives his immortality to Prometheus so that he can die. That is how Chiron saves himself, as he gives up immortality so that he can be killed and finally be
Oh
released from the Hydra's poison.
God. And I
So when
have that
people
on my
talk about it,
ascendant. Fuck my
well,
life.
and so that's why when people say it's like they talk about it as the wounded healer, it isn't that he heals wounds, it's that he is permanently wounded and yet tries to heal others, right? It's the person who has no love but tries to lead others to love. It's the person who has no money but tries to be a good advisor, financial advisor to other people. That is where Chiron comes in. It isn't, people just don't know the myths, so they take it too literally.
Okay. But even in the Chiron myth, he is able to heal.
Yeah, he's
right?
a great healer, but I think that's
Yeah.
my
But
point is
what
that
I'm saying is that I'm not so certain that Chiron, the asteroid, has any of those abilities, right?
which I would agree with. My point is exactly what Yuzuru say, is that Chiron is, the irony of the entity is that he is a healer who can only be healed by dying. That's the gist, right? And so it's the solution to your problem with Chiron is often the thing that looks like it's a bad thing, right? He is a mentor to many people, right? He teaches all of these great heroes, but he himself dies this horrible, tragic death, despite all of his brilliance and his knowledge and his skills with medicine. He can't heal himself, is the other element of Chiron that I think people tend to downplay, is like that whatever your Chiron placement is tends to indicate a part of your life where you cannot help yourself. It is where you need help from other people, and you won't be able to learn enough skills to heal yourself or help yourself, much in the same way that Chiron, despite being the greatest healer in Greek, well, one of the great healers, he's a centaur, right? Can't actually heal himself of the poison, right? He's not Asclepius. He's not able to change those things. So I would point to Chiron as like, where are the wounds that you cannot heal yourself? What are the things that you are really, really well experienced in because you've had negative experiences with those things, as opposed to, so if we were to talk about like a doctor with Chiron, I would want to look at like maybe the eighth or something like that, So if you've got Chiron in the 8th, yeah, you're probably maybe you went into medicine because you had some horrible chronic illness as a child and you've never been able to get over it, but you want to try and help with it. That's the only kind of healing I've ever seen with Chiron, to your point of like,
yeah,
it's not to go to the doctor
Well,
asteroid.
yeah. It's interesting listening to your delineation because I have Jupiter conjunct Chiron in the 9th, but I'm self-taught, right? For the most part, on most days. I've had some good teachers here and
I was
there.
going to say, you've had a lot of teachers.
I've had a lot of teachers, but I mean, I taught myself how to read, taught myself astrology, taught myself a lot of things. I mean, a lot of things I've had teachers for, but I've never had bad teachers. I've always had really good ones. I had teachers that teach me for free just because I'm a good student. And like that I try hard enough that they feel like
Exalted
it's worth
Jupiter
it.
in the 9th house acting
Yeah, your
out.
Jupiter's doing a lot there for you.
Yeah.
My Chiron is in the 3rd, and it is where it belongs.
That makes sense.
And the chat has been popping off with this Chiron talk. Everyone loves Chiron. Someone says, when someone encounters and gets through a harmful pattern or cycle, it might end due to the intensity / metaphorical death.
Yeah. It's also, again, like Chiron is the son of Kronos, right? So it's literally an extension of time, is like how you should understand the metaphor. So I think that's tenet.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes in with like what we talked about with my chart tonight at the beginning, where I've got Jupiter conjunct Chiron, right? And these series of Jupiter activations that ultimately led to my introduction into things like, the occult and the transgender stuff and all of this other things, like it's related to Jupiter. And it was related to that horrible, the thing that happened to me when I was a kid. So, it's interesting. I mean, I feel, and the thing is, Jupiter's stationing right now conjunct my natal Jupiter, and I have been like kind of actively dealing with like fallout from all those years ago, like, so the party never stops, guys. Right? The world keeps on turning and the stars keep on moving and they're out to fuck you. So
even when you die, the party never stops.
I was totally wrong, by the way. My Chiron is in the 8th house, not the 3rd. Sorry. Which, yeah, to somebody talking about Chiron and Lilith tends to lead to sexual violence. Yeah. Lilith is a bummer. I don't know why we're trying to resuscitate the image of that fucking entity.
Right.
I know women have been wrongly vilified in many, many, many contexts, but sometimes there are just bad women, and Lilith is a bad woman, but that's fine. So we can.
Yeah, I mean, is she like the baby-eating demon, right?
Correct.
Lilith?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not great. But people try to make Pan into a good entity as well, which I've had many conversations about. Why are you worshiping a rapist? That's crazy. Unless you are one, then that makes sense. But there's a lot of girls out there being like, I want to find me a Pan. And I was like, I thought you said you were done with fuckboys. Which is it? Because he is the fuckboy. That's his thing. But I'm good to go. I need to go get dinner still.
Yeah.
I need to take a shower, eat dinner.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, this has been fun. Thanks for joining us again. Have a good one. See y'all later.